What's
All right.
up?
What's going on, everybody? This is the
Hello,
Soil
hello.
Lounge. We've got the usual suspects, Crane, Emily, Jeff, myself.
Hey,
We've got a special guest here, Rion Naus, man.
hello.
Ryan, what's up, Ryan?
Many good things. Glad to be here.
Man,
And
super excited to have you here, dude.
Yeah.
That's epic. I was so stoked when we talked about that and said, "What? Heck yeah,
Mhm.
let's run it anytime." Perfect guy for this. This is what we do here. Um, we just run microscopy and talk soil and yeah, I'm excited to
good.
have you here. It's a big deal. So learning, it's a learning channel, right? We sit here and I try to take things that I digest from you and then fumble them up a little bit. Some of them I nail, and some of them I come back around and say, well,
Yeah.
close enough.
It's okay to fumble. You still got to catch it, though, right? It's like the
Yeah,
bounce after going for it,
yeah.
trying to keep it contained.
Gotta pick it up and keep running with it. So, Ryan, I don't know if you just want to touch real quick on who you are, man. Let everyone who's gonna watch this and get an intro from the man himself.
Uh, my name is Rion Naus. I'm a stewardship ambassador, and I work around the world and around the country to connect people who are trying to do a better job and to make it easier. So, with biologicals and regenerative practices, I I work at all the scales, but it's really nice that independent of whatever scale people are at, it really is about the same principles and just helping them see how they can best meet their needs. So yeah, so I work with all the crops because it's all grown out of the soil and most of the livestock that eat it. So um, it makes a lot of sense when people talk about food as medicine, but the reality is most people eat stuff they shouldn't, and at that point there's a lot of other consequences. And so giving people better tools really makes the job easier.
Dude, you're telling me. I was just watching this video. I can't recall the name of the channel, but it was about how out here in Michigan back in the 70s, there was this cross contamination between like food master, something nutrition master and fuel master, which is like a fire retardant. And like because everybody was skimping on like supplies and stuff, they ended up looking the same. And so for a long time, cattle and sheep and stuff were fed with this fire
Oh my.
retardant mixed into their grain, and it was making them die. Like the foals and stuff were born all deformed,
Yeah.
and the people were getting sick and stuff. And it got like, it was a crazy number. It was like 9 million people or something got affected by it. And it's like the life of that. It was called like PBB. I don't know what that stands for exactly, but it's like a really bad poison apparently that lives in you forever. And then it's transferred to your children and children's children if you have it. So yeah, let's learn how to fix all this stuff, man.
Yeah. And there really are amazing tools now. Like there's actually no excuse. The no is a know-how. It's a knowledge deficit. Like we have all the tools at the largest of scales to do this biologically, where there's no waste streams because everything's cycled back in. Right. This is where it's an intention from the very beginning. What goes into the animal, what comes out of the animal, what goes back into the soil. Like the intention. Um, it's actually really easy when they understand that they have so many opportunities. It's just showing them that they have opportunities. And like you were saying, there is a reality that we're working under distress. There are these chemicals out there. There are these toxins that have affected things. There is nitrates in the water. It does affect, you know, everything that we're doing. But really, it comes down to people. A client recently, he describes it as herbophobia. Like these people who grow plants are terrified of weeds.
Right.
Like they're so scared of this other thing growing, and they grow plants, right? They're so scared that this plant is growing here that it's like the cut your nose off before your face, type of thing. It's like it's. I also heard recently that in the attempt to never get behind, right? A lot of people, it's always a catch-up component. In the attempt to never get behind, people do things ass backwards, right? I have people who have killed their fills because they drowned it with overwatering. You know, it's still dead either way. Like this is where the end result is the same, whether it, you know, was a chemical or anaerobic environment that shifted the ecosystem. But yeah.
It kind of goes back to that conversation. You sent me a message the other day, and I don't know if we can even talk about that, but you know, I don't want to bring that up. But you showed me a field that was struggling, and you know, when I asked you what's going on there, you just said, you know, mismanaged. You know, it's the word.
Yeah.
Managed, right? I was like, he spelled managed, MAN dash, you know, AGED, which is, you know, there's that puzzle piece there, right? Where it's like, well, actually, it was dehydration stress, mismanaged, right? It's people trying to force this thing.
Yep.
Without,
so strawberries, when they're vining, right, or growing, they're not producing fruit. And so the strawberry industry intentionally drought stresses that plant to shift it over hormonally to you know, reproduce or die. Like that's the shift, right? And so because of that management practice, there's this whole cascade of problems that they have. But it really is because this is something that they're forcing versus understanding how they can work in other parts of that seasons and cycles to help their plants. Yeah, pretty great.
People do, man. That's what people do. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Again, happy to have you here, and I'm taking this Soil Lounge direction a little bit differently because I listen. Right, I've got people who are loving the information, and I'm known for just kind of like, ooh, shiny. You know, let me go this way. So I'm gonna start with from the beginning. I thought, why not? You know, if everyone's loving the info, let's start with, you know, the first principles. I was, you know, told sand, silt, and clay, and then every week, you know, we'll roll a piece that takes us. But I want to share it through the eyes, the lens, through the lens, right? Because we, as microscopists, we get to look at things through the lens, you know, and things that you would think like sand, you know, silts and clays. They're so much cooler to me under the microscope. So I've put a piece together, and you know, I figure for the first hour or so, you know, just kind of be business, you know, here in the Soil Lounge, and then that second hour or whatever, we just hang until whatever that works out to be. But yeah, real cool. I've even made a little slide that I'm gonna share, and you know, we're getting into first principles. I think it's better the other way, right?
Yeah.
First principles, right? So, you know, the mechanisms of soil, and I think that it easily gets lost that the parent soil here is sand, silt, and clay, and without those things, I hear all the time, and what really drove me to this is that I feel people say we can't grow in Florida, and I thought, well, because it's all sand, and as I've grown into this, I've recognized that I'm lucky I have sand, because it's this empty canvas. I've seen other, you know, conditions like clay and thought, man, that's so much harder to fix that than, you know, or maybe I've just, you know, figured this thing out with sand already.
Well, we don't have water problems in clay.
Yeah.
We hold water.
Yeah, I don't hold water, right? And this is why I honestly think that if I had to deal with it, or maybe just I know what I'm dealing with, so I've learned to handle that. But when I was in California in November, you know, I went out there and I stuck a shovel in the clay, and I was just banging that thing like, dude, this is a rock. Like this stuff is no joke. And you know, I thought,
can we go back to that one? Are you going to get into actual, like?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are we going to go? Okay,
let's run it.
So these are also just particle sizes. Very important, like to help, like just on understanding. We have big, medium, and little. You see what I mean? Sand, silt, clay. It's just a progression of size. It's very important that each one of those, they're almost like their own little trophic level. They interact in the ecosystem different, right? Because then when you finally get down to the clay particles, this is directly connected to like ions, energy transfer, repelling bonds. It's that small. And that's why with the microscope, we kind of pass through that lens and can visualize what's happening at that scale. So your plant only has two ways to interface with that system by itself, and that's a root and a root hair, right? And so with rhizophagy, they can actually do that right through the end of the root, taking it in, interacting with it. But that's like sand and silt. See what I mean? Most of the water, most of the nutrition is actually in where that mineral nutrition is in that available form is in that clay layer, which is too damn small to get to. You know what I mean? So at that point, that's where these fungal hyphae, 10 to 100 times smaller than that root hair, is why we can see them in that 400x magnification. And they're in that layer and they're sucking up ions right through the damn thing. And that's what we're visualizing under the microscope. It is the same thing that's taking place when we see a sand particle. You see what I mean? But it's at a different scale. But when we are using the microscope, we're visualizing it and able to actually see what's taking place.
Okay, I feel like I want to put my hand up because I already have like a handful of questions. So, okay, rhizophagy, that means the root of the plant is currently uptaking nutrients.
Yeah.
That's like the motion or the act of it, right?
It's nursing. And you can harass Matt Powers about that. And he goes, it kind of looks like a boob, right? It's actually a duct, like the mammary gland. And so it's expelling, right? We call those exudates, right? But there's also an intake, just like with a mother, right? And so that then allows for communication between those two. And rhizophagy is when the plant actually uptakes that nutrition and that biology.
Is there a different term for when it outputs it?
We call those exudates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it's the exudated, and now you're out. See, bam, see you later. Like it's the exudates, right? And we exudate too. Like this is where paralleling it with our experience is because it's something that living things do, right? And when we do, it's a poop joke, but see, that's exactly what they do. Like, and it's just part of that living system. And so when we sweat or our armpits stink or something like, those are our exudates, right? Tears are exudates. Like you go to the bathroom in the morning or you do it in the afternoon, whatever. It doesn't. Those are exudates sending out the excess of our life trophically to the next level. And I agree with you about sand, right? It's absolutely wonderful. It's amazing. It's crystalline structure, right? Good airspace, nice porosity, good infiltration, but when it's not a living system, it's spelled POOR. But when it's a living system, it's OUR. It's pore space. Okay? So instead of it being a negative, it's actually a positive what's going inside. Because just like spider webs at our scale catch the moisture, catch the minerals, catch the creatures, right? As that water's going through the sand, those fungal hyphae are like hammocks bridging that space. It's wonderful to grow.
That is so cool.
In that. Yeah.
And rhizophagy. Phagy means to eat, right? Rhizo is the root zone.
Yeah. That's why it's taking it in.
Taking it in. And another note that I thought was really cool when I learned it, fungus, the hyphae is made of chitin, which is very hard. So there's just hard structure that's able to tear through soil. And that's always just that's why they're able to get through some of that compaction and go dig for nutrients.
Actually, so it's internal pressure. You know those long, skinny balloons? You know, really long, skinny balloons
Yeah.
people make
Like
and
for the balloon animals.
Yeah.
Okay. As we're talking about sand, silt, clay, we're also then talking about how those are just bricks, right? How those physical structure pieces are able to build in that ecosystem, right? And that's why we have vertical erosion, you know, going through and then out, right, of the system. And so when we have sand, silt, clay, this key factor is also in that combination. And so that's where people get their soil types, right? Most people, though, in a dead system don't have what's called bioturbation. The movement, the churning, the interaction between that system, it stratifies, right? And with those different stratifications, then that's also connected to pressure. And then we have what people would call a compaction zone.
Fraction
Right?
layers.
Exactly. But it goes back to a lack of structure, and it's really a beautiful thing, truly. And it is a parallel completely to our own bodies. Like it's the same thing. It's called capillary action. It's about diffusion. It's not a true blood vessel like vein, like a hyphae. You see what I mean? It's about diffusion of oxygen and energy through the system. And if our pressure is too hard, if you're a diabetic, you'll lose your foot. When the soil is too hard, we use a penetrometer. We can tell exactly how hard it is. We know that oxygen and water can't penetrate through that. Just like our own body.
You said there's a meter to test for how compacted your soil is. You can do that just
There
by
is
like
a meter, and if you charge people money, then you can use a meter. But if you just are trying to make the world a better place, you should use what's called a cultivator for it. So it tells you all the same stuff. You just don't get a number.
You don't get the little pressure gauge.
Yeah, if
Okay.
I'm doing an invoice, that's all numbers, and so you have to talk in numbers. And so they don't want to know I walked around and poked holes in the yard. They want to know that I took these readings. You see what I mean? And so then you can give at this depth, at this pressure, and because of other charts, well, it means it can't breathe, so on and so forth. But if you know your weight, right, then now it's your weight on top of the cultivator fort. And so you have a pounds per square inch based on that spot that you're standing. And so as you move it goes down into that soil like claws and fingers, right? And then you just move your arms forward and backwards, and all that does is it creates fracturing, but radial fractures, three-dimensional fractures, not just poking a hole, right? And so now that fractured system can breathe. Most people call them potato forks, and they usually have a short handle, right? Because potatoes are what they were cultivating.
But it has a gauge on it?
No.
No
gauge.
You're
the gauge.
But you are you're
the gauge. Yeah.
You're engaging that ecosystem.
You know what would be cool? Just work with me here. If you took a little 2x4, put it on your scale in your bathroom, and then took that fork and applied pressure, it could give you a roundabout number of how much pressure, weight you'd be putting. So the idea is that this penetrometer, you just push it into the soil, and where it starts giving you pushback, there, he's got one right there.
It's super easy.
Real quick.
Like
normally
this
your
is what
weight
I run around all these farms, and I'm actually wanting to help fix it, not just get numbers. You see what I mean? And so this is that's a penetrometer. They even put it in green. Green, you can breathe. You see what I mean? Green to go. That yellow band usually translates to a lot of weed pressure. You see what I mean? Because it's a different compaction.
Okay.
connected to weak pressure and compaction. This is back to that sand silt clay. Now we're talking about nitrates because we're no longer in an aerobic metabolism driven ecosystem, right? It's different biology trying to live. And because of that, it shifts how nutrition is broke down, right? Nitrifying versus carbon sequestration and cycling. So it's a great gauge, but we're supposed to be the gauge. We're
Right,
the people
yeah.
part, you know? Yeah.
Yeah,
No
so,
one
so,
before
so
used
take,
to weighing
Dude,
themselves.
when you use it and you get a long handle one, the potatoes are for short people. No, long handle. You feel soil structure, you feel texture, you feel give, you feel pull, you feel pockets, right? You can feel that suction of a clay layer where it's not letting go, right? You can open it up. If your ground is so hard you can't even get into it that way, find a gopher hole or path. That's the path of least resistance. At that point, you're doing the same thing nature's doing without your help at all, right? And now we're able to steward and participate. Like this morning, I put about 30 gallons of an extract that I made down different gopher holes in my area here. They bring mineral up. This is bioturbation. They create the air and
Gophers
water
do?
passage. What was that?
The gophers.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I've pulled at least 5 pounds of glass out of my yard because they've brought it to my attention.
Wow.
It's an upwell. They literally bring it right up out of the ground, and they have these gopher mounds, these outflows, right? The next step is for the macroorganism, the one that's conscious versus the creature just doing what it's designed to do, to then go, oh, I don't want that in my yard, right? But everything else is now the calcium and minerals that have gone down. What comes out of that hole could be from 10 feet below, right? This is that nature's churning that ecosystem. Gravity literally is just pulling sand, silt, clay down. When there's a saturation event, right? Hydration, everything floats. At which point clay, right, when it's saturated, it is floating. Those particles are actually pushed away from each other electromagnetically. But it's when it dries out that structure collapses and all those particles come in alignment that even water can't penetrate. You see what I mean? Like, so a key factor for me for success for momentum is when nature has done like 80%. That's a great opportunity for us, no matter what scale, to do what we can to make up for that next 20, right? Nature working on our behalf. So this is where most farmers wouldn't do an application because they don't want to get the tractor stuck in the field because it rained, right? Because it rained, now the equipment is too heavy when everything's floating. Yeah, but everything's floating, meaning this biology can swim around. Like it is full blast at that point. And it's a small window within the season. So it's like, oh man, this is the sweet spot. Let's go. We have to wait 2 weeks so it can dry out enough for us to drive our tractor. Yeah, but what happened? They missed all those opportunities and it closed off. Oh, this is where
So is there a way to what opportunity did you miss, I guess, if you had to wait for it to dry anyways before you could drive on it?
Okay, so whenever, and it can be, so nature has many mechanisms. Biological systems are one of them, right? But because of environmental weathering, so like there's water in the mineral and then it freezes, well, that expands everything. And then it contracts. Now there's little micro fissures between. So this is part of that other mechanisms of breakdown, right? So here's an example. When I went to Kazakhstan earlier this summer, they have a a 2-meter frost, like 6 feet deep plus. It freezes every year. Holy cow. That shifts that whole system into being driven by a freeze-thaw cycle. Because of that, there was zero pore space. All those holes had gone and then re-stratified with all that, the frozen, dynamics going on with the freeze, right? And so if we can get ahead of it so that we're putting stuff out there, like we have a head start, we're putting stuff out there before the rain, then when that rain comes down and everything's floating, we have things, literal physical structure, that will go between those particles and create structure that way. But then when it dries out, so you guys know when we look through a microscope and we see a slide dry?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And it can actually have quite a bit of force when there's a fracture, right? The space between the glass and really suck everything up.
And for those that don't know, it's like a vacuum seal bag that just starts crashing in on everything.
Yeah. So what's happening, that's capillary action. You're able to witness it at that scale. So when your slide dries, you're witnessing capillary action, pulling apart, pressure, little gas bubbles, all those things. And what's happening when that hydration saturation cycle's going on, it's a tiny little bit of aggregation. Just like when the slide dries, it's pulling everything together. When there's life in that mineral, yeah, exactly. When there's life in that system, then that life glues all those things together. That's now a microaggregate. How freaking cool! Like, we made it! Woo, we're a microaggregate! Right?
Good job, man.
For real. Oh, let me tell you. Right now, there's a lot of pissed off people because we can say stuff like that. Let's see.
Yes.
All right. There's a lot of farmers who wanted, and maybe even some did, wanted to call themselves regenerative, but they understood it to be, organic in the front, and chemicals in the back, kind of sleight of hand type of thing. They're not seeing the results they should, even with the use of biology, because they're still using the chemicals.
That's right.
And so there's a whole thing about enzyme cofactors, right? And you can have the creature there, but it can't make glue if you're still using some of these chemicals. You see what I mean? So now when that slide dries out and that aggregation's happening, if the system is still chemically laden, then when it gets wet again, it collapses because there's nothing there gluing it together. But instead, if it's a living system, it comes together and it has what it needs to be able to do the next step, make glues. And these are just enzyme cofactors, right? This is exactly what they are. Oh, makes perfect sense. It even tells you which minerals it chelates. And so anything with that as a cofactor now doesn't work. That's what it means. Like,
wow.
Wow,
and
that's why
I was wondering about that, Ryan. I've been talking about this. I'm seeing this new trend, and you're probably already miles ahead of it because you're out there, where they're now saying, well, let's take chemical and work it through biology and let biology settle that up. And I'm thinking in the background, we know shortcuts don't work, man, and something's going to happen. Now here I am hearing about enzyme cofactors. Oh.
Yeah. No, it's really, it's sinister because it allows a lot of these chemical companies, it allows them to have a lie of omission, right? Because they can say, oh, ours doesn't do that. It just takes away zinc, manganese, magnesium, copper, cobalt, boron, and calcium, iron, and a couple others, right? Okay, so they didn't say anything that's not true. They're literally telling you this is what it does. Yeah, but if we don't have iron, we're anemic. You see what I mean? Like, this is where there's a result to not having, like, They even call, this is the funny part, dude. They call them essential elements.
Yeah.
Essential means required for life. Yep. And we do not have the elements required for life. And that's why we see a lot of very easy, like human health things that it makes perfect sense why, but it really is just a result of you are what you eat type thing. You know? So, but when you're looking in a microscope and you're seeing all the signs that should be there, but they're not coming together, you may be into a chemical legacy, a residue issue. You know, if you've done everything that you're
can
supposed
just
to,
like, keep watering out.
I
You can eventually water it.
Okay, so water's just a carrier for all intents and purposes. So now what do you want to put in that water to help, right? But the way nature addresses this, the process is called chelation, right? And so chelation is also what those herbicides do. It chelates, but it's about both sides of that coin. You see what I mean? Making things available, making things unavailable. That's the process of chelation, opening and closing these things. At which point it can either break it apart and now you have kind of inert pieces that it can do other things with, or it can bind to it and try to fill those receptors that demands, you know, from the system, right? And so you're kind of blocking it in that way, building a chelation around that protective armor. So one thing you can use is biology, but that has been humified, and that's a very important word as we transition in sand, silt, clay. Humification is not mineral, it's life in a crystalline form. Let that process for a second, right? It's what we see in the microscope when all those creatures go into a cyst state. They have gotten rid of they were 100% alive and a living creature, and now they are almost cold. We even see brown coal. Oh, Leonardite. Oh, it's the same stuff. It's fossilized life, right?
You said that was called humic?
Yeah, humification. The act of becoming humic, right? Super cool stuff. Like it's the best thing, because what you're doing is you're buffering that chemical exposure with old life without having to risk the living creature component of a new extract or compost or something like that, right? And so now you're letting that old life buffer, right, the chemical, and then the new life going into that has a better chance.
So that's like the soil. The old life is a sponge now. This humification is a sponge that is able to actually manage things in there, in a sense where it's able to grab things, leach things out, hold nutrients.
But remember, when we see it under the microscope, it's crystal structure. It's about resonance and elemental frequencies, and man, it goes, oh, that boron over here, right? And it binds to that. And then because it's a living system, the fungal hyphae with organic acids can change the pH and make that available and buffer that, and then bring that zinc or whatever it is back to the plant.
Okay,
It's pretty cool, huh?
when it's crystallized, is that kind of like the like freeze-dried version?
Yes.
Or is that a complete different chemical?
No. So freeze drying is the is nature. So a lot of these systems will be hijacked where it crosses over. So freeze drying in nature is the fast track of that process. So in Kazakhstan, because they have such a deep freeze, there was zero pore space, right? I told you about that. But I couldn't find any roots. Usually you'll see actually physical pore space from last season's roots, depending on management practices, right? There's holes and pathways and stuff. No roots. But what I did find are these amazing roots that had been freeze-dried into the mineral and were humic. roots that were in that soil profile. Like it
Crazy.
freeze dried the organic root and turned it humic. Like it was crazy. But yeah. But that tells you once again, fungi. Like that's how do you help that system? That system needs to be able to access that nutrition in such a hostile environment. Like this is winter whipped, and you know how do you work with it? But yeah.
So how do
Winter
you
it.
regulate something so that it, like, I guess there's no need to, I'm sorry, I guess I'm confused. So unless you're storing it for a really long time, do you need to use something that's gone through humification? Does it
How do you
unlock
wanna-
anything different?
You want your soil
It
to-
does actually. A lot of this, okay, so every time it goes through this process, it's also transitioning through different trophic layers, right? And so at that point, what's also attaching itself to those crystal structure and mineral structure are secondary metabolites, different terpene, like all the other chemical signatures from life and living that's part of that. Like the trichome is an exudate, right? All that
one.
resin production, yeah, it photosynthesizes. There's a life in those glands, and it's cycled back into the plant, flavor profile, all those things. You see what I mean? So it's not just, you know, carbon. It's not just like those are just us trying to simplify a beautifully complex system, you know.
Yeah,
So
trying to control it.
yeah,
Trying to control it.
What-
Yeah, that's what we do.
dude, it's so much fun to learn about it, be co-creators with it, you know, be surprised by it constantly. Like the microscope and the stereoscope, those are just observation tools. It needs an observer, you know, someone to still look,
Right.
you know, the inquisitive soul who wants to know. I've had people flat out tell me they have a problem, and then we can look and that's not their problem.
Right. Completely different, right?
Yeah.
Like what else do you need? Like it's that easy because they are so sure, and for the most part they're just sold and told information from product people, right? Versus actually being able to verify and have understanding and make good decisions. Like it's a game changer at the biggest scales. Like this isn't just mom pop backyard gardens. These aren't the, you know, the backyard yarden or whatever it is. Like awesome.
Garden.
But so part of scales that's very interesting, and it does relate to minerals and elements. But part of scales is also recognizing that for the 10-acre farmer, they have to be able to see that it's possible at 1 acre,
Right.
right? Well, and if it's possible at the backyard, maybe we can make it possible at the acre, you know. And so it's a progression through scale, and the 100-acre farmer goes, you know, I might do an experimental crop like that 10-acre guy down the street. And so it's a progression through scales, and it takes the 100-acre guy to do it so that the 1,000-acre one feels comfortable, and so on and so forth. When I was in Kazakhstan this summer, that gentleman was at the 10,000-acre scale. He was exactly the same as a super successful 100-acre scale, 10-acre scale, because those are the people who are able to showcase. And so most of the people in attendance to his program was 100,000 plus acres, because they wanted to see this 10,000-acre guy do it, and to be able to see his books and see his cows and his fields and his pivots and his soil tests and his, before they put in a 10,000-acre experimental crop for a couple years, right? And then switch over the whole 100,000 plus acre operation.
Crazy.
So this is where working through those scales is part of this, right? And so when we see through the microscope, we're just looking through a different scale. And if we don't see it at that scale, like if you can see it in your hand, you have an idea what you would be seeing under the microscope, right? It's because we're not seeing it even in our hand. All right, well, let's see what it looks like under 40 magnification. Nope, I don't see anything alive at 40. What about 100 magnification,
So in your hand, what you would be looking for is simply like roly-polies and earthworms, things like that. Like things you can actually see moving.
All of that and more.
You're looking at the way that it's held together.
Yeah,
I
go look at your
want it
compost.
to tell me a story. And when a worm comes out and says hi, it's a lot easier to see and hear the story, right?
Okay, I want to go get a handful of my compost and see what you guys think of it.
Little springtails hopping around because I know that those are fungal grazers, right? They're mycophages. They eat fungi, mycophage, right? Right. So it's like I want to see all those. If I see all those, I know I'm going to see fungi in my soil sample.
Right.
100%. That's the biological literacy between scales. Like you can see it, you can hear it, you can identify these things. That's why structure is independent of life. Right? This is like how those bricks fit together. They all collapsed in on each other. You can't breathe. Okay, now we have to reset structure and put life in between those particles. Like we're resetting the system. There's a lot of no-till farmers that they need to do some mechanical disturbance.
Right.
This is why I teach us a soil CPR course, because if it's not breathing, it's dead. Right? And so if it's dead, and then you plant into that, no wonder it's struggling. Right? And transevaporation, just the wind blowing through, sucks that sucker dry. Right? And so, like, you need to, just like if somebody's choking, right? You need to remove the obstruction.
That's the first thing.
Yeah, first principles.
Step one, remove obstruction.
Start breathing again.
They cannot breathe. What is required for breathing? Access, right? No access. All right, what can we remove from the system that's causing it is a little bit of wordplay, but it's a compaction layer. This is our action required for our compact. That's an agreement between us and the rest of creation. Because of our compact, we have an action. That's why it's called compaction, right? It should be the very first thing that tells us what we have to do next.
Right.
Can't breathe. Where's your cultivator fork? Yeah, nope, doesn't have a cultivator fork. They have a spade in their truck, right? A guillotine cutting through the soil profile, not telling them anything, cutting the one worm that was out there in half. They don't both grow back, It's like, come on, people, we're hurting here.
This number surprised me when I first learned that 25% air is what should be in our soil, and then 25% water should be in our soil. And we're so focused on organic matter that's comprised of 5%, right? But you make sure that the air and water can move in that system, and you're going to solve already a big portion of your problem.
So, organic matter. Let's talk about that real quick. This is where, thanks for letting me interject.
Go.
When people see soil organic numbers on their tests, it also equates to water holding capacity. And the numbers vary from 20,000 to 28,000. A lot of that's based on mineral structures, supporting surface tensions, layers of other data. So 20,000 plus, we'll say it like that, right? Gallons of holding capacity. We are 70% water, just like most of the biology we're looking at in that system. So it's in these creature canteens that as you increase the life back into your soil profile, every 1% of life increase equals another 20,000 plus, right? Now it's equating to volume. Like, wow, that much more life is in my field. Plus, And that's what allows access to that water. And the same thing with the sand silt clay. If you're not working with your fungi, you don't have access to where that 25% is actually stored too. Right? Because you can touch it in your hand and it feels dry. You send it off to the lab and they're like, it's 50% water.
Mm.
And another factor, if your soil is hydrated, then it's actually more water than soil or mineral.
Mm.
At which point, you now have to deal with hydro and fluid dynamics. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Like, but this is where, like,
All that sounds
how-
like to me is the exact reason why I overwater every time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's partly why. We want to do more, and sometimes we do, and it messes kind of the natural rhythms and flows and things, right? And so it's really finding routines and rhythms, our personal cycles, our equipment that we use to optimize the schedule, right? But it doesn't matter how many acres or how many plants you have. People want to do more.
Right.
What else? What can I water again today? It was so much fun. Let's do it twice.
That goes back to what I heard it first from Leighton Morris, and don't be a moron. You keep putting more on, and that's not the ticket. That's not
good.
the
That's good.
Yeah,
don't be a moron.
Elaine Ingham kind of beat that into all of us. Don't be a moron. And so Langdon's a great example of soil profiles, right? So when we're talking about sand silt clay, him even bringing that or replicating that into a raised bed or indoor cultivation is wonderful. Yep, it's about structure, even through scale. You see what I mean? This is where, I'm only working with an 18-inch profile. Awesome. You're still going to need a base material. You're going to need a drainage. You're going to need to make sure your organic layer is not in the fluid because that leads to rot, right? Bacterial breakdown versus fungal recomposition, right? The minerals, like it's about classification. Yep, perfect. Yep, he's done a great job with sharing about how structure is super important in the success of your plants. So yeah.
Wow.
And then figuring this out at scale, bro. I've recently just opened my mind to scale with some of the stuff you show me and some of the stuff I'm looking at out there. You're figuring this out at, this other guy's 10,000 acres, and that's small, right? So
yeah, that's a tiny guy now.
He's a baby in your world, right? It's like, what are we managing?
It's the same thing. This is what I wish actually more people would realize. For a 10,000 acre farmer to truly be successful, they need to bring back a 1,000 acre farmer and a 100 acre farmer and a 10 acre farmer and have a couple 1 acre farmers as neighbors too. Like, it is incredibly lonely. They have to drive hours to find other people because that other farmer has 10,000 acres between them. You see what I mean? And so it's like the true success is rebuilding these communities, and so it really has very little to do with the number of acres or hectares, but it really is representative of this is what I care for, right? And I have some people with several 100,000, 500,000 acres, and the reality is, but it's still one person. So what can they do?
It sounds like it doesn't matter what the size is, because if you can look at it under just your what's it called, field of vision on a microscope, and you can identify an issue and fix it there, then that can be applied at scale.
Yep.
So it doesn't, it makes
really,
sense. It doesn't matter if you have the largest size then.
Yeah, the really is you find out what they do over everything. What do you do over everything? Well, we plant seeds. See what I mean? Awesome. Let's work with the seed. Can we do a seed coat? Can we do something in furrow? Are you going to spray a liquid? What about, oh, nope, you don't do any of those things? Well, then you work through pivots, right? Just giant spray booms. But now it's 500 acres at a time, right? Okay, you don't do that either? Do you graze animals? Yep, we graze animals. Awesome. We can put stuff through the animals, makes what comes out of the animals even better. Dung beetles fly back in because they've got the right signals to participate in the party.
You behoove.
like-
You are behooved to work with
exactly,
those
dude. This is
with
yeah.
hooves.
It behooves me.
Right.
Behooves.
It behooves me too.
It behooves
Yeah.
me to work with those. To work with those that have
Nature,
hooves.
this is where nature
That's
works
awesome.
on our behalf, but we have to do the other half,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
sometimes, like when you're in a stewardship mode, you're not killing a bunch of animals. You're trying to nurture life, right? Cultivate. So from a hunter perspective, or modern world that we live in, that would be like range animal, cattle industry shepherds, right? Instead of stewards. When you succeed in that industry, that's when you're killing it. But if you're in this vegetable production industry, you don't want it all to die. You're trying to grow it. Right? And so this is where our mindsets get shifted and we get confused. And it's super easy, but it's all about like our intent being actually manifested into our actions, right? And that's why the word is acknowledgement. It's an active knowledge, not just something you heard online or you read books about. It's you've acknowledged it. I know what I can do, and you did it, even if it's a little thing, right? And so those little things, that's why it says no small feat, because you need a K and O W, the little feet. Right?
Small
Like small feet. So this is part of it being something that then is easy, because that's how like nature, that's what they do. Like it's not even hard. Like the strawberries we were talking about earlier, the drought stress isn't that big a deal if the plant has available zinc. But because of the herbicides that they use, it chelates all the zinc.
No zinc.
Right? And so now it doesn't have what it needs to be able to go through this change of drought stress in a healthy way. And so then it suffers. And because nature is efficient, those fungi are told to get to work, to cycle that nutrition and see if we can do better next time. And instead, the people mostly think that those are the bad guys, right? Versus just the next step in the labor force.
So simplifying real quick. Right, simplifying real quick. So just for those that maybe are not clear on it, to chelate is to make available, right?
No, it's the interaction of. It's available and not available.
Right, okay, yeah, so it's, okay, chelated to go in either direction.
Yeah, it's
So
based on its charge, its ability to work with. Yeah, it's
and
all like
pesticides and herbicides will actually chelate these things.
Yeah.
It'll either make them available or not available.
Yeah. Okay, so because of its structure, now think magnet. When you have it going one way, it can only do what it does, and then sure enough, at some point in time, it hits somebody's cell phone, credit card, or some iron filings at the beach. You see what I mean? It's just going to do exactly what it's going to do. And so this is where they talk about people having these forever chemicals. Yeah, because it's going to keep doing exactly what it's going to do until it can't do it anymore, but it's designed to do this, right? That's the formula that it's literally constructs it, at which point, whoop, grabs onto stuff, right? And remember, we're also at a level where pH is part of this, and all these other things, and glyphosate, all cellular membranes, human cell, like this is like, it's the membrane part, is a phosphate layer. You see what I mean? And they're like, oh, you don't have that pathway. Yeah, but every cell does.
Yeah, you're burning everything. It's
like,
burning
this
everything.
This is where it that's why it's a contact toxin. You touch it, gotcha. Right? There's some really dark shit that's out there, and I'm not talking about manure. Like, it's really gross.
Yeah. You're touching fire, and this is being taken up by you at the end of the day, and people are getting sick.
Yeah, and there's
online.
books. Literally, it's like the doctor's reference manuals. You're like, hey, what do you spray on your crops? And then they go back to the office and leave you there in a paper towel for a little while, and they flip through some books, and at that point they go, oh, these are all the diseases you're going to get because you were afraid of weeds.
It's crazy what we're willing to risk ourselves just to kill a couple of plants.
Yeah. So
and now
this
we
is
know,
where-
like we know, people know that it's dangerous, and they're still just like, whatever. I got to dry out my wheat.
That part right there, the I gotta. That's because
gotta.
they don't know of any other option, right? So I believe we're ill because we're ill equipped. If we had the right tools,
Yeah.
then someone who wants to do exactly what they're doing their whole life, they're working themselves to death, right? But if you've never seen a hammer before, I can guarantee you I can get a nail to go into a log with a screwdriver. You see what I mean? Like, I'll make it work. I'll get it in there. But if you have a better tool, let's build a house. Let's go, right? And so this is where, until they have been equipped with better tools, then they are going to use what they have, and that's what they have. And I've been to meetings where I'm literally told to shut up, so I appreciate the ability to speak with some candor. But they tell these guys flat out, we know it doesn't work. That's what are called herbicide-resistant weeds. At which point we know that you're going to have to maybe do a triple application of this thing that we know doesn't work. But we're going to charge you for every drop of this stuff that we know doesn't work. But if you don't have any better tools, right? And so this is where, for most people, it's just that easy button. I'm going to put this in the tank and spray it. Versus trying to talk about soil structure, gas exchange, mineral nutrient availability, bioturbation, microbes, macrobes. This is where, or I can just spray this.
Right.
Yeah. Just and then keep spraying it, and then keep buying it, and then keep spraying it, and then keep buying more. And then when that picks up resistance, now you got to buy this to spray on top of this, to then spray on top of this, and it just doesn't end. It's your own.
No.
You're as Doc would say over with One Potato Revolution, you are renting fertility.
Yeah.
And that's not even fertility when you're renting your growth through poisons, and that's just it. And some people are okay with that. Some people, I guess, don't look at the bottom line there, and I mean bottom line as in their health, not the dollar, bro.
This is where I think, like, if they don't have any better tools, then they're sacrificed. Like, this is self-sacrifice. Like, I still got to bring in the harvest. Still got to make sure roof's overhead. Man, it was a really tough year, and it was. Like, this is where every year is tough. And since I work with people all over the country, the reality is it's tough somewhere at some point, right? Because if this person doesn't have any rain, this other person got 18 inches. You see what I mean? And it's like, by working with so many people, like it's tough. And they're looking for anything to make it easier. And so at that point they go, well, what would make harvest easier? Okay. Well, if everything dried out at the same time, then I could logistically schedule all these trucks, logistically get enough people to run all this equipment, make sure all the equipment is actually available and running, which is a big deal on that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And make sure I have someplace to take all that stuff that I just grew, because if nobody wants to buy it, it's just a really great year, but it didn't equal paying for next year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so all of those different layers are mixed into how do I make it easier? And that's what they then call a desiccant. But it's the same chemical. They just call it something else. Yeah, dude, that one took me a couple years to figure out the little sleight of hand on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said it yourself, they'll make it smell like fresh orange.
Yeah.
You
Hey, man, they make chlorine bleach smell like lemons and sunshine. Yeah, you're not supposed to want to smell it.
Right.
It's supposed to make you go, get away from this. It will kill you. Versus, oh, that's nice. Let's smell it.
Yeah, let's drink it.
Is that what they're doing? They're changing the scent of it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just go. See, this is when you walk through the grocery store in the aisle that literally makes your skin crawl just walking through it, right? It's a physical sense of what's all around you. If you see anything with a fragrance added, they are trying to make it smell better. At which point, because of our own structure, it makes us smell it more. Right? It took away that negative inhibiting factor. We take it in. No, you don't want to take that in.
Don't take that one in.
Smell it. You waft that sucker over here. You know what wafting allows you to do? It makes it go from this ratio to a much thinner ratio before it hits you, right? We just went from thousands to millions. Good. Nope, don't want that in my body. You see? Like, these are all...
Yeah.
Some of these elements, they only need, like, even the word is trace. Just the bare minimum. Like, we're talking parts per billion, right? There's only one of me. There's only one of you. There's, however many 100,000s or millions in your state, and 340 million in the whole United States. Okay, well, we're going to need 3 or 2 more of those to equal 1 billion. And we're talking one of you and 3 times the number of people in that many, like, this is where it's like, but if you don't have it, just like one of us, right? If you don't have it, then it's not going to work the way it should. Yeah. And so this is where these elements are, they're like fuses in your truck, like legit. Like if you're driving down the road and you pull out the fuse for your air conditioner, your truck still works. You can still get from A to B, it still runs the errands, does the whole thing. But your ability to deal with heat stress has suffered. Because you didn't have that teeny tiny element that we call a fuse, right? But it's just an element, a piece of different metal, like that's what it is, it's an element. Because it didn't have that, we couldn't tap into that fungal energy channel, which is what Dr. Christine Jones calls it in the research she's done, that allows that system to actually cycle. And so a lot of people who are suffering from different like viroids and virus diseases, that's 100% what's taking place. That's literally the plant having everything, but it's like, but no air conditioner. The heat stress comes, it doesn't have that little teeny tiny manganese or whatever the heck it is, right? And this is where testing allows you to see other things, allows you to, get more insight. But in general, like if it's not there, it can't do its job. And if, like we were talking about some of these chelating herbicides, if it also took out all these other elements, well, now the radio doesn't work, the lights don't work, you can't use the electric locks on it, the seat doesn't adjust anymore, but you can still drive this sucker.
Yeah, you can still get there
to where you could be. You see what I mean?
You can still eat it.
And that's what happens with food. They go, oh, hey, it's not really people food. It's insect or fungi food, or worse yet, bacterial rot, right? At which point we're going to kill all of those indicators that tell us we shouldn't eat it. And because we killed all of them, we think, it fools the senses, we think that is a good looking apple. Look at that leafy green. You see what I mean? Nothing has wanted to eat it and nothing will now, right? And so then we eat it and it screws up our microbiome and changes our gut flora and fauna. And and the same thing applies with our health. And then we have now a chelator in our system that is looking for that opportunity to do exactly what it does. And as it works through our system, and going through digestion and different pH changes, and all this is part of that, it will bind to that in your body. And now you don't have zinc either. And I'm using zinc specifically. Zinc's responsible for immune response, hormone production, pregnancies. How many people? Dude, they have billboards right now. Hey, you guys need help trying to have a baby? It's like, excuse me? Like, for reals, that right there tells you on a survival, even just evolutionary factor, we don't know how to have kids anymore. What? Like, hold on. Like, we're now having billboards to help do the most natural thing possible. A woman can deliver even when she's in a coma. You see what I mean? This isn't even like a factor that's complicated. But we're struggling because we're missing all the pieces
That's crazy.
make that process easy. Yeah.
We're
And
contaminating
the food
ourselves.
is literally making people infertile. Like the younger
Yeah.
generations they don't even have the desire to do that type of stuff. And it's like, what? How are we going to continue existence if you guys cease?
So you so you go and you take some vitamins that's got stay with zinc, right? Oh, let me take my daily dose of zinc. But you just ate something that's got these toxins in it that are bringing in these chelators that are going to lock that thing up.
Sometimes.
So you're popping vitamins, and there's a chance that you and we're just talking zinc. Let's not even go figure out what calcium does to your body. What all these other nutrients.
Okay, so
and trace
going back to humification versus mineralization, right? That's fossilization. So if someone has arthritis, right, their joints are mineralizing. You see what I mean? That's actually what's happening. We also know that mineral is in a soluble fluid state or alkaline crystalline form based on pH. And so there are literally old people who are turning into fossils. They're mineralizing. Like that's what all arthritis is, right? Their joints literally solidifying.
There are young people turning into fossils too, buddy. I've got rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm fucking struggling.
You don't use it, you lose it. I know. That's why we gotta always keep moving. It's important. It hurts. I know. That's no pain, no gain. I mean, this all of it, and it is part of. It is 100% part because sometimes the thing that we want to do that seems and sounds kind, is actually like there's even a term they say, kill them with kindness. Bullshit. Who's killing anybody? I don't care. This is like, but most of the time, and I've especially seen it post-COVID, is they do it out of convenience.
Right.
The parent that doesn't know how to interact with their kids, so they just pass them a phone, right?
Yeah.
And now they call it screen time, but really what's happened is that person has screened them in from a whole world of real and possibility and interaction, inquisitive interaction with the rest of what's real, because their whole world, instead of being REAL, became an REEL.
Real. Whoa.
A real.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Drop the mic. Oh my god.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is where, in that process of mineralization, it's a lack of function, lack of use. It's long-term storage, right? It turned into the crystal structure. When it's in humification, it's just waiting to be utilized. It's a, even like sulfur, it's a reversible bond.
It's an accessible bank, if you will, right?
And if it's a living system, that's what organic acids do. It's still changing the pH. As soon as it literally is like, oh, I want a little bit of this manganese. A little, organic acid right there. Now the plant has manganese.
Because the root does that.
And that
right?
fuse just got plugged in. Now the air conditioner works. Yeah.
Well, that's a great analogy, man. That fuse thing's a great analogy.
Mo can't go without air conditioning because he's in Florida.
Don't pull my fuse.
We have to help with their heat stress.
Yeah.
There's some heat stress around here, boy.
So with some of the work I do, I really do try to find a way to make it relatable, and it has to still be real, right? And so it's like the periodic table. Periodically, everything sits around that table and has to consume and get its needs met. And that's why every once in a while you'll need that little bit of this and that little bit of that. But that's the whole table. If you think there's something else, nope. Everything, all those building blocks that they have to work with are in that table. There's your minerals, right? This is like, those are your puzzle pieces to work with. Everything else is is changing its state from, you know, acid to alkaline, playing in pH, and using the biology to do that for you. You know?
Ryan, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on sand, silt, and clay holding everything we need, as far as minerals are concerned?
Because of chemical interventions that people have done, that doesn't always hold true because they're not there, right? They've been chelated; it's not accessible. Usually, what we can do is we can do a total nutrient digestion test that tells you like the value of all the minerals, right? This is all the puzzle pieces you have. And then when we do like a sap test analysis, if we know we have calcium in the soil, but the plant doesn't have any calcium, then what it means is that that calcium is not available, so it's missing a biological bridge. You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So,
And-
so in general, yes, most people, there might be some trace or essential elements that need to be reestablished, but most people don't need to do the mineral work that they do.
I tend to run into an extremely common comment, you know, when it is thrown out there where, you know, because here we are, you know, and again, I know that I personally tend to get way extra with, you know, my micro farming and mixing, and I love it. It's more of an alchemy to me that I enjoy. But I, you know, every now and then I'll get that, well, you know, that's just way too much. I tend to just let nature be nature. But my argument to that is that's great if you can, but there's been a lot of intervention where we've killed nature. You know, my house was built on piles of sand that came from, you know, 10 miles away that they dug out of a trench that don't have those inputs, and you know, therefore I'm needing to work them in my property. And you know, I still not sure on where I stand with that. You know, and you just answered it for me because I know that we've done the damage, and you know, we're constantly doing the damage.
So what happens is in our mind we're like, oh, I want to make it better, right? Okay, cool, but for it to be regenerative, right? And just break down the word a little bit, right? Regeneration, just means it's coming back around, right? Doing it again. It's about generation, but that's an action. It's about the generations. You see what I mean? This is about the life coming back to that system. And depending at which scale, it might be 1,000 generations of bacteria in the last couple days. You see what I mean? But it's regenerating those over and over. It's cycling those systems. And so before it can be regenerative, for a lot of people, they need to have a humble reality check and be remediative, right? We're now fixing a problem. We're addressing a deficiency. We're buffering a toxin. And for some people, they needed a solution in the next 6 weeks. They can't even think or process that way. For other people who are like, that sounds great. This is our farm. We're here for the long term, generations to come. Then at that point, it's easy for them to be like, all right, let's fix it and never cause a problem again, and we'll reap the benefit.
Now.
Yeah, forevermore. So.
Now, I've always heard remediation. So, like with cannabis, remediation is like super bad because I've always understood it to be like they are radiating the bud to remove any like. I'm assuming it's like for issues like fungal things. Yeah. Like if you get bud rot, I don't know.
Now
if
we're
it's
talking industry. So industries are other beasts. Before we were just talking about nature and the ecosystem. Now we're talking about human nature and the ecosystem.
Okay. All right. I like these little bits you got going.
Thanks. Here. So because they're not competent or confident in the way they grow, or they know flat out that they're really bad at it. Yeah. They then have a safeguard cheat sheet where they microwave oven or irradiate all of that.
Oh, so it's okay to just hate them then. That's just bad growing.
I didn't go there. That wasn't exactly where I went.
I'm going to go there. How dare you? Take some fucking pride in your grow.
Industry, and this is an important factor with paperwork. It allows industry to hand a piece of paper to someone else who only cares about a piece of paper to say, "Hey, look, no mold."
Yep, I'm
See
just
what I
gonna mark
mean?
them down. Hate them thoroughly.
Even
Got
though
that.
there's a whole bunch of other stuff that could have been done that wouldn't even be necessary.
That's exactly why. That's exactly why. And these people in the industry have all the freaking money to be able to do so, and yet they choose not to because they want to just keep lining their own pockets with it. They want
Which
to
is
keep
why
the easiest
everybody
way.
should grow a garden, and there should be a variety of medicinal and edible plants in it.
Yeah, that's why around here I'm all about getting the backyard and the homesteaders. You know, to me, if you can fix 2 or 3 properties in your little 2 or 3 block range, you're gonna be sitting pretty well. I've said this before, and it was such a learning point for me going to my sister's house where she has her beautiful butterfly gardens and she raises butterflies, and the neighbor went and sprayed and wiped out all her butterflies just from that
Oh, I'd have
overspray.
sued him. I'd have sued him so hard. Are you
Well,
kidding
you
me?
know
I don't
what?
know how.
She went over there
That
busting
would've
his
made it
door
worth
down. She went over there. It finished being a great story because she went over there busting his door down, and now he grows worms. He's he's doing. He was like,
Okay.
What happened? He honestly just didn't know. And these
Wow.
people don't know.
Half of them are
find my-
trying to be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, dude, and this is kind of like when I find myself at Home Depot, I try so hard not to interject with what they have in their cart because, my question is, well, you can't know what's in there, right? Like, you can't really understand what you're about to apply, right? Like, so it's kind of like, hey, buddy, what do you get in there? Like how you break the ice here to be like, let's walk this way here. It's a thing, and what's unfortunate is, for example, that bag of compost, this Miracle Grow, 2 cubic feet of it's going to cost you $11, right?
Yeah.
So they're just kind of like, there you go, there's 10 pallets of that one, and then here's the local guy sitting on the corner with maybe about 5 bags, and he's the same price for 1 cubic foot. So it's a knowledge thing. It's just
Now, I have a question when it comes to the composting. So you had said something about sift size or different sized substrate.
Aggregates.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, for the compost, is there a best size that you want to use when you're using it in your garden? Because, like, in our compost, I've got a 1/4-inch screen that I sift it through, and then I just top dress with that. Are you just grabbing it to look at it unsifted? Do you sift it? Does that change anything? Because all I'm doing when I sift it is trying to remove anything that hasn't broken down enough. And I mean, there's still some things that get through, like wood chips and stuff like that. It's just 1/4 inch, so it's not, too big or too small. But I wasn't sure what that reason was with the sift size that was mentioned.
Well, we were talking about sand, silt, clay. Those are different particle sizes. With top dressing, usually it just comes down to what equipment you have to apply it. If you're doing it there in your garden, and you don't even have to take out the larger chunks if you don't want to, because that now is just mulch. You see what I mean? It shifts its purpose in that system.
Not to mention that when you wash it in, because I can take that, I've taken that chunk, put it in water, and then put that under the microscope, and there's life there. There's definitely.
Oh, because it comes off of that when you wash it. I like this
it's all
comment
on
from
top.
Rusty Nails. If you sift worm bins, a 1/4 inch will get you vermicompost, and an 1/8 inch will get you castings, for example. I thought that was pretty good. That's good to see the difference there. So if you are just trying to do worm casings, that understands to go smaller. But I feel like, don't you want the life in it? I mean, life is going to be in it regardless. But if no worms are in it,
Usually,
are you missing
with
something?
vermicompost, they are trying to keep their labor force, and 1/8 inch allows them to capture most of the worms and cocoons, so that they're selling you the castings and not the creatures.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
They need to keep their
And
employees.
they need those to keep making more.
Keep
and
their
more.
employees.
Oh,
So that's also
That makes
why these screens are what are called classifiers. This size equals this size equals this, and then and then it's about what you can use that material for. You know, you can use it as a seed coat.
Oh my gosh,
you can
it's just like sifting hash.
Exactly.
What are we doing here?
Oh yeah, no, this is where, for reals, people, I think that there's just a social conflict between community, but some of the best people, like when you look at like form and function, when like it's a muscle memory component where it's like your body's just feeling healthy and you're doing and you're going to town. Yeah, someone who doesn't have a problem sifting and working through material is going to be the best person to put on the job to make a compost extract, right? Because it's that same thing, but one, you're keeping the cream, you see what I mean, and then the other, you're putting it out to go to work. And the flip side of that is the same motions and mechanisms is actually what people who are doing like gold panning and things like that are doing. They're just going the opposite end of the spectrum and go for the heaviest material, right? But it's that same, the people who are willing to go out there and, you know, swirl a gold processing plant are the same ones who are moving and wiggling a screen to calcify. And yeah, so there's a connection to like even people like I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people who really care about making quality material and sift, and who understand that.
It's mesmerizing
and the rhythm,
to do.
The rhythm, and these are fluid dynamics. Things are flowing through that system. Yeah, it's cool. And cannabis pollen, as an example, it looks like just a perfect pearl under the microscope, and under dark field, it's beautiful. Like this is just like these things we can observe.
I'm gonna get one of these microscopes.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I want to see it. I want to see everything of the plants under a
You got
microscope.
to hang out with the plants, and then they're like, "Hey, look what I found." So.
Yeah, here, take me in and put me under your microscope. That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a no-fly zone in Florida here.
So Mo
Exactly.
gets to live vicariously through me and my grows.
Yeah,
I get to tell him all about it, and he gets to just sit there and salivate.
Yeah, sure. That's right. Because it's a no-fly zone in South Florida.
It's only wrong if you ask permission, right?
Yeah. So
Now this is the first note that I took because I realized I had it backwards. I thought clay would be the biggest part.
no, let me go back to that. So sand.
So I was backwards in that.
We kind of hear it in order all the time: sand, silt, clay. Right? Clay being
and
the smallest.
there's higher order. Pebble, cobble, boulder. You see what I mean? Like we're familiar with these other terms, but it's just part of this progression of size.
Yeah, these are the things that, like, for example, here we will jump over to
right,
the microscope.
But that picture, though I really like the graphic, isn't close to expressing the scale, and that's the important part. It scales down drastically from one to the other. Scales down drastically again from to the next one. Right?
So this is sand.
Yeah, this
is sand. This is me. I went out to my yard. I literally went and pulled this from my yard. This is not from a bag of sand. I went out there and just kind of scooped up a handful of this. And this is what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of balls that would allow. You can imagine if you poured water into this, you'll see it just kind of drain through. It's like a bunch of pebbles, if we went a little larger. And this is why sand in Florida, this is why mango trees and these tropicals that don't like quote unquote wet feet, mango trees. I'll tell you what, Ryan, when I decided to, start planting things in my property and start building I don't call it a food forest because it's the closest thing I'm going to get in a quarter acre. Everyone with experience is like, don't use your crazy biology compost for your mangoes. And I'm like, hell, we'll see about that, right? And I did get 8 mango trees. I planted 6 in the sand because I do honor and trust the people that told me this, but I have to see for myself. And I put 3 in compost, and those 3 died. And that's kind of set me off into a whole nother, my journey of learning how to grow things, because if you know anything about my story, I never grew anything before. I was a contractor. I was building things. So this is what the sand's going to look like. I don't have a sample of silt, but if I come right over here on the same slide, we get to the clay. I should bump them together.
Oh, cool. Whoa.
So, and those are aggregates of clay. They're not even little tiny particles, right? But this is brown clay that I had in a bag. So this is pure clay, and a bunch of it's clumped up. All the bigger stuff is clumped up clay. I'm at 100. I won't be able to get much closer without really blurring things here.
This is why, like, sometimes people who they eat like bentonite clay and other things, it's because they're binding. It's binding to those toxins, working its way through the system.
So it's doing that charge is actually, that's so cool. You see, I've learned all that. This bentonite clay thing is something people ingest, man. It's all all that is new to me. And when I get into this over here, the cool thing,
the silt layer also has a tremendous amount of organic material. That silt is what organic material breaks down into, because remember, it's not fully mineral. It's not mineral, right? And so in that silt is a high property of organic material. That's
if you wanted to take silt and put it under your microscope, where are you pulling that sample from?
So when you have like a 50 milliliter test tube, right?
Yep.
And you do your mix, and then you let it settle, and you can see that it stratifies. You can see the different lines of difference. Okay. The very top one.
Okay.
See? Yeah. Before it goes into solution is your salt. Like that's what it is. So you take from the very top without pulling up chunk, because it's those finest particles. There's a ton of life in it. It's the easiest interaction, at that scale for the biology to, interact with. Because once you go down to clay particles, things are in a different, like, it's an ionic form.
Yeah.
Right? It's super tiny, man. Like, there's a reason why when you're flipping through 40, 100, 400, right?
Yeah.
You don't see it at all at 100. And then you flick it one more, but that's really 300 more magnification. that's a lot. That's when you can start seeing into that clay layer.
And then for here, what I had to learn dealing with sand is that I don't have that ionic relationship, right? So if I'm not able to hold these charges, which means I'm not able to hold minerals, which means everything is getting washed through my property.
Which is why that fungal net is so important to capture, contain, and then transport and communicate with it. Or it just flushes, right? It flushes right through. So particle size, that's all it is. It is talking about texture, because as it breaks down, wears down, right? You would expect that these things become smoother. It breaks off little edges and creates smaller pieces of itself. Yeah.
And then you have so silt is kind of like a moderate. I mean, it's a moderate. So sand, silt, clay, no hold, moderate hold, and then clay.
It's a carbon buffer. Yeah, we're carbon based, right? So it's a carbon buffer to deal with the electrical realm.
Which is so important. There's energy and electricity that's moving around here, and you need those conduits in there. You need this organic matter. You need these things to work together, because one of the brilliant moments I had when I first started this was like, well, why don't I just add clay? Well, because then you get concrete, right? It's like sand and clay is not your answer. You need organic matter. And then clay, I thought this was fantastic when I learned it. The best way I learned it was taking cardboard and sheets of paper, and then it's like Mod Podge. When you soak them, you end up with one piece of cardboard. And that's kind of like how I pictured clay. That's why this is depicting that. They're thin sheets of paper that stack on top of each other, and they prevent, now you get compaction. Because if you remember,
so what happens
when
they're in solution, they look like the capital letter I, because the electrical charge when they're floating is keeping them apart. And so it's when it then dries out and that structure collapses that they snap.
Oh, that is so cool.
And that's why we need those fungal hyphae to get in between all those pieces, cracks, crevices, and so that when it dries out, it doesn't fall apart. It's like rebar in the concrete.
Right. And your roots, right? So you need the roots. Yep. So you need the whole system.
That's such a good way to put it.
Rebar in the concrete. Oh, yeah. And that's what fungus is doing.
And that's where those roots are macro versions of that, just scaling up those same principles, getting into that pore space, adding more carbon, to that system.
I have a question. So, is the root that's holding it, the rebar, is that dead root, or is that like just like not awake or active spore?
So I was referencing.
I guess not spore, but would that be mycorrhizae?
I was referencing fungal hyphae in that clay environment is accessing that particle size and acting like rebar in the concrete, right? Holding that structure open and together versus it drying out and collapsing. So that connection there. On a larger scale, right? This is patterns. On a larger scale, a root is going to do something very similar where it goes into that, builds rhizosheath around it, and acts like that rebar in that concrete. And you can, I'm not sure what you're showing, but you can see that with like a mycelial mat. Like it's holding all those pieces together.
Yeah. This fungus is holding this piece of soil together.
Yeah. And that is now an aggregate. So he's holding a aggregate. You see what I mean? And so good, healthy soil should be like, they talk about it, be like big, chunky chocolate cake. Bunch of aggregate you put your hand into and it goes in easy because it's following all that pore space, all those pathways, and you're pulling up all those crumbles. Right? That's the ideal versus it just kind of falling through your fingertips. So.
And then the ionic capacity with clay. And that's where now when I build here, I find things that, clay it's not sustainable for me to bring clay here. I can't even find clay locally where I'm at. This is like, you want sand? Which color do you want it? I've got every color of sand. But when it comes to clay, it's a grind. And so, I think that if I build up enough organic matter, I'll be able to at least get as much as I can out of that. And I find products.
Do you see your visual there, which is really great, and it has the minerals, some of those little bolts. Okay. When we were talking about enzyme cofactors, you can now imagine that some of those were just removed. You see what I mean? And so it's not allowing the biology to make that connection, to bridge that gap, to make glues and other things.
So important. And that's when I started seeing, and then here's the whole picture, right? Here's everyone at work. Here's your sand, silt, and clay, and your microbes, and your glues. And when I started identifying this, glues under the microscope, Matt was the one that was like, that's enough of let's look at the bacteria. I really learned from Matt. Cool, I got the shiny, higher trophic microbes, the predators, but what is the bacteria doing in this sample that may look a little off, and it sharpened up my game a little bit.
If you want to look at samples where you're kind of focused on that would be like the very surface of your test tube, right? You rock it back and forth, you do the whole thing. All of that has knocked all those glues off and now are floating, right? Because they're a lipid. Water and fat doesn't mix, right? So that's part of why they're floating on the surface. And so you take your pipette and just pull that, you'll be able to focus on a little slightly different biology versus going deeper into the profile.
And what do you do when you're looking for actual aggregation? I mean, glues, biofilm. Or do you ever just go, or you're looking at the sample? I'm thinking outside of just a soil sample. If I wanted to go look at biofilm, I know that I would brew something, take from the top. Usually you got a heavy film there.
That's where the party's at. A biofilm is a quorum sensing, right? That and then it shifts.
What's a
almost.
quorum?
Quorum is okay. So quorum is a Greek word that means everybody's in agreement, right? And so, like in politics, the group has come to a quorum where everybody's on the same page. You see what I mean? And so it's like within the social um, soil sociobiome, all the creatures that are part of that, that when it's all on the same page, it's working, right? There's a quorum. And so quorum sensing is the ability for the biology to reach out, connect, and receive signals so that when it is suffering from heat stress, that it comes back around and provides the nutrition so the plant doesn't have to worry about it. You see what I mean? That would be quorum sensing, or that ecosystem would have reached a quorum.
And the way I explain this to my little like regenerator group is, they're the auto inducers, right? Which are the signals, the hey, they send signals into the system to see what comes back. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, and if enough data comes back, enough for them to come back, then they decide to come together, whether in a positive or negative, and that's how we get sick, right? It's like one E. coli is not going to hurt you; it's going to be a bunch of them that hurt you. So this also happens in your body.
Yep. It happens all over nature, like fireflies. The insect itself goes, "Hey, fire," and then all the biology in that gut goes, poof. And the reason why it takes time is they have to recharge, reset, and then they can poof again. See what I mean? But every single one of them is on the same page, and that's why millions of those little suckers go off internally of that firefly all at the same time. It's quorum sensing. Boom.
Together.
Yeah. And so the same thing is applying with your plant. When your plant's like, hey, I need this. It's time to switch from vegetative to reproductive phase. Yeah, people are the same way. This is hormone, production. When it's time to shift gears, your hormones change. Boom, time to grow, right? But if it's not there, then all the other things connected to it are thrown off, right? And so some of the weird Frankenstein stuff that they've done with modern agriculture is to genetically modify the crops to not need all the things that are actually required for life, right? And that's why they can spray Roundup ready crops, because it doesn't need those things. It's deficient, it's deficient, it's not they've hijacked the whole systems. It's not the same plant, so this is where when we work with plants, all plants, like, it is a synthesis of what's taking place in the system from the micro to the macro, and then from the macro back to the micro, right? And that's making compost and working with worms and arthropods and poultry and different herbivores, But sometimes I'd rather work with nature's best composters than people, right?
I hear that.
Rabbit poop, deer poop, sheep poop, goat pellets, elk droppings, moose, they're all cold compost.
They're all ready to go, right?
Oil right now, right? Manure, like cattle manure, that's why the dung beetle was so revered in Egypt, because if it wasn't for the dung beetle taking that manure and cycling it into the soil, it's not about fertilizer, it's about fertility. Fertility is all about making babies and being healthy, right? And so the lie of fertilizers is that this is how plants and people grow, and that it's not. It's a different system.
They're putting it in the name,
bro. Yeah, but the dung beetles literally are in tuned. They have antenna, right? They are tuned in to the party. And that is their happy place. It makes them want to have a baby. They put their little eggs in those little rolled up balls, right? And so they're driving down the road or flying across the field, and from 2 kilometers away, they will hit that radio station and go right to that pie. But if they're using a bunch of antibiotics and they're using a bunch of dewormers and they're using things, or the cow is eating nothing but a mono gut of silage, that's all dead and chemically laden, then that cow pile will sit there for years. Nothing wants to eat it. It's
That's
dead.
like,
He
that's like
can't
the guy
tell
that
that
had
it's actually food or anything.
that was like the guy that had the cheeseburger for years in the box, and he found it like 10 years later. It was still there.
Dude,
Right,
that's
so part of
intact.
it
so
is
hard.
when that root is sending out an exudate, that's the party. That's the signals, that's the music. When we look under a microscope and you see the wiggle, that's us visualizing sound. Right? If you are plucking a guitar string, you hear it with your ears, but if you look at the string with your eyes, you see it wiggle. Right? And so when we look through the microscope and see that teeming team, spelled different, teeming team, right? Going off, it's alive. That signal going out is the dinner bell for those worms to come over there and start working around that root zone.
We just can't hear it.
Yeah. But we can
Right?
see it.
So we can see it, but we can't hear it. But it's happening. It's happening. This is kind of like if the tree falls in the woods, does it make sound? It absolutely makes sound, right? The forest feels it. The forest knows it. Everything around it understands it. So even at that micro level, these things are happening. And one more thing I wanted to ask you, Ryan, just because, I mean, you're the dude to ask. I find people, and I'm always like, wait, with the millipedes. In Florida, we've got millipedes, and I'm always like, no, don't hurt them. They're beneficial, and I did that deep dive because we find them here in our compost now, and I brought them here from Gardens in Glass because I didn't have them here, and
so millipedes are endemic all over the world. They're one of the original land animals. They've been around 450 million years, longer than plants. They've been working with fungi. They are the master architects of compost for their trophic level, right? Everything that comes out of the back end of a worm is made better by that biological refinery. Within each trophic level, that same aspect applies. And so they're, for arthropoda, the millipedes are the top composters. I'm not sure who's on this presentation, but I just received knowledge that a gentleman named Robert Paulson, everybody called him Buddy. He truly was nature's buddy, and he has passed away. But he was the originator of Millipoo, which is I've helped his family and company bring that product to market at scale under foundational fungi. But it's arthropod castings, right?
He's here
and
in
it
Florida.
is so fun.
Was he?
But this is where
Right.
reality.
Yeah.
And there's several other producers around the country. This is where I'm fortunate to work with a lot of people, and but it really is about understanding the internal mechanism of that biological refinery. And millipedes are mycophages. They eat fungi, right? And so they're out there grazing just like we would eat some corn on the cob, but they're doing that the fungal gills and packing in billions of spores and packing them together in humic and fulvic crystals and then kicking them out with the rest of the labor force. You see what I mean? Just like a worm does on a bacterial level, they're doing it on a fungal level. And so I learned a tremendous amount from him. And anybody who has millipedes, and this is where you got to learn, roly-polies are not millipedes, but actual millipedes. They're telling, as a biological literacy, are literally telling you that you're doing a good job. They're the canary in the coal mine that has the right sensory input that says this is a happy, healthy place, and I'm going to do my part too. You see what I mean? And now they're in your Johnson stew, or now they're in your worm bin, or now it's a trophic succession. And all arthropoda, right, because it's about trophic succession, all arthropoda are made of chitin, which is fungi food. See what I mean? So it's a processing between systems. And so it is, some of the samples that I've seen are higher in mycorrhizal fungi than even mycorrhizal products, because it's not made by man. It's packed together by ecosystems. You see what I mean? It's a totally different thing. And so, well, how do you get mycorrhizal if it's not connected to the root? Well, I didn't go to the root and chew it right off that system and pack it into a casting. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like we can't do all of this. This is why nature does. And it does it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, but for people to think that they're not helping, oh, there's such a benefit to your system. And when they have antenna that reach down and kind of touch and tap in front of them, and their eyes can see the visual fields and break the light spectrum, like so they're tuned in, you know, to all of the wavelengths. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So even like using ultraviolet light at nighttime where stuff really pops, it fluoresces. That's what some of these creatures look normal. So it's walking through the world, and then over here's this giant glowing tower of phosphor. You see what I mean? It's like, how could it miss it? For it, it's a screaming beacon, you know, in that ecosystem.
I saw you using like a black light on fungus.
Oh yeah, dude, it's just enough. Like all of these are observations tools, just a new way of looking at things. And there are some arthropods that they fluoresce. They've got so much phosphorus in them that they glow. You know, they're just like,
yeah,
right. And another cool thing is these creatures, you don't have to kill them to get the benefits out of it. That's how you know it's also part of trophic succession. They molt, so the act of their own health and growth is depositing chitin and phosphorus into the soil profile. Like what?
Yeah.
And yet that's fungi food. Like boom, boom.
Right.
Like it's a total, just beautiful connection with the system. So yeah.
Paul, a lot of my observation, and I'm always telling the guys, and I haven't even done the rabbit hole on this, but my work just alone, hitting epi on everything, I'm recognizing that some chitin fluoresces, a lot of chitin fluoresces, like a lot of shell from these arthropods, they bling, straight up.
They do.
Yeah.
Dude, this is where, right? So if you've ever been to a rave before, or a party, or had a disco ball, right? Mm-hmm. That have that perspective of what an exudate is. It's literally pumping into that system with all the different pieces swirling around like a disco ball, shining. And we know that roots are also fiber optic, shining light down into the darkness. Like, yeah, that's where the party's at. And we visualize that by what we call a rhizosheath.
Roots are fiber optic? Why did I not know that?
Yeah, it's about how light passes through.
Oh, yeah, because they're moving photons, dude. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa,
right?
dude, you know,
and
like,
so if you know this, you're like, wait a minute, it looks dark. Yeah, but you know it's not. You know what's happening below it. So this is where it's no longer superficial. We're behind. It's not just surface level. You see what I mean? You now can know what's going on below that environment. And truly, I recommend anybody and everybody learn how to scuba dive. That's when you become the microbe in that macro environment. A good, healthy soil ecosystem looks very similar.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
I'm not kidding. A good, healthy soil system looks like a coral reef without all the dirt in the way.
Yeah. I used to dive back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago. And I'll tell you what, to me, there is nothing like going 30 feet down, letting your BC go, and just sitting there at 30 feet and just watch where you're being watched. She has a thing with I wouldn't even go there, but she's.
I'm not doing it. I think you're fucking wild.
Okay.
You can practice. Let's be the microbe to a macro. You want me to be the small fish to a fucking shark.
Yeah, dude.
I do not think so, man. I don't think so. I'm not.
Come on, Emily. You got to step out of your comfort zone.
We're working it little by little. But to sit there,
submarine before
to sit there. You know what? We used to go out on the boat. We used to go out, take some people out, go hang out, throw our scuba gear on, right? Jump in the water, come back with lobster and all this good stuff, show off a little bit back in the day. And one day I went down there with my spear gun, had a yellowtail in my lock, dude. And I'm like, this guy's, and dude, I'll tell you what, and I was nice and lit back then. This thing just trusted me, came up to me, did one of these side shots at me. Last time I ever killed a fish. I just last time I ever killed a fish.
What did he say to you, Mo? What did he say to you?
What did the spear get at it,
This is
right?
the last time you kill a fish,
And
bro.
it's just like, what's up? Hey, we're good, right? You and I, we're good, right? We're gonna do this. And I'm here, like, I'm not killing this thing. I went back up to the board, but what happened? What we eat? We're gonna go to Sundays, dude. We're not gonna. I'm not doing it. And that was it. It was honestly it for me. It's such an amazing experience.
It allows us viscerally to experience what is taking place in the soil. Like, it's a fluid dynamic. Things sink by gravity. The visual spectrum is split within that field, right? You go down certain depth in scuba diving and you start losing color. Okay? Yeah. But
Spectrum.
now we know what these different frequencies and how they interact with the microbiome. Like,
Get to the bottom
and
and they're
so,
all translucent, like the anglerfish and stuff.
yeah,
It's all blue.
red doesn't exist past 33 feet. And then you look, everybody brings it up to the surface. You got all these red fish. Yeah, but that's not what it looks like when it's down there. Right?
Huh.
What?
And so they're all, there's so many layers to it. And within the first foot, right, is the equivalent of 33 feet in the water. That's just density difference. And then you have to go up 1,000 feet in the air to also hit a density difference. And that's why we have pressure change. Like, you drive over a mountain and the pressure changes, right? It's a different pressure we're under.
Do we get any extra colors when we're up there? Instead of like losing colors, do we get more?
No, but part of
when you're at
aviation,
altitude?
Yeah.
aviation training is high altitude hypoxia, and they show you colors, and you start to lose colors up there too. You start to lose everything. You start to become incoherent, because of hypoxia.
So Jeff was
so-
a helicopter pilot in the military.
This is also why under snow, plants still grow. And it's white on the surface, but underneath it splits the visual field. And so it's all the colors, and it isolates like infrared, so it's warmer. Right? So this is where that blanket of snow is just making it easier for that party to get started. And you'll have green photosynthesizing plants under the snow.
So
There's
snow,
some-
the disco ball here, bouncing lights everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, 100%.
That is
That's
so
right.
cool.
And it's
I don't
pumping it
get to
out.
play with snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now most
That
of
is
you
so
talk about
cool.
disco balls all day.
I need snow. I don't get snow here. I've maybe twice, 3 times in my life I've been in snow, and I don't know it. So that is actually, that's cool. I need snow now. No, I'm kidding. No, I need snow.
But I do recommend everybody learn how to scuba dive. It is shocking how many parallels there are.
And listen, if you're not a diver, I would say go hit a protected reef and snorkel in a 15-foot reef.
Nah.
Because even
Forget that, dude. Superficial. Just
get
floating
in
on
there.
the surface.
that's
Totally
true.
different experience when you're
That's
under it.
true.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
true. You might as well drink it in a fish
I
tank.
have braved the water enough to go kayaking now. So I at least have done that. I won't get out. I won't get into the water.
See, most people are afraid of drowning. If you're breathing, you're not drowning. You don't even have to know how to swim. You just have to keep breathing. You see what I mean? Like, there's some wiggle room to work with.
And you know what? When I took the cert back
exchange.
then, when I took the certification back then, you know what? Part of the final test was they took us down to 30 feet, take the regulator out of your mouth, and exhale all the way up. And because that oxygen that is expanded in your lungs, as you go up, it extends. So you have air all the way up.
You have twice as much air because you brought that in at depth. Yeah.
Can you imagine that? That's like a massive hit, and then you just blow it all the way out, coming all the way up. Yeah. Ryan, man, I'll tell you what, we're here. We're running into this 2-hour mark, and
it's been nice.
man, I could just burn time with you, bro. That is just
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Will you come back?
I've enjoyed the banter and fun. Great questions.
We've been monitoring it, and if anybody has any questions, let's run through them real quick. But
There was one that I did see earlier that I just wanted to clarify, but the chemicals we were talking about earlier that like make it too hard for the soil to clump up together, those are like synthetic nutrients is what we were talking about.
I was specifically talking about chelating herbicides. So chelation, mineral chelation would be the mode of action described as an herbicide. Different things do different things, the modes of action. But glyphosate is a chelating herbicide. So there's a lot of other chemicals out there that chelate things, but some just chelate a few things, right? Glyphosate went whole hog and tried to grab onto as many different things as it possibly could, which is why it's been such a quote-unquote successful product for so long, because it's the Swiss Army tool of chelation out there. But how nature deals with that is the same, right? It either breaks those bonds, which is the biology, or it binds to that buffering, that mode of action from the rest of the system. So even on seeds, and this is at the largest of scales, right? Even on seeds that are still treated with what they call a triple stack, which has a fungicide, a nemicide, a pesticide, like all these poisons already all over it. You'll have what's called an exclusionary zone, which is a little area of death right around where all that toxic load is. It's the same thing that we look at in a petri dish where there's an exclusionary zone around one culture and how it interacts with the other cultures, right? So at that point, outside of that exclusionary zone, the biology that was put onto that seed is able to grow and build rhizosheath. And so even under a heavy toxic load, we're still able to start bridging that gap beneficially. Man, snorkel, mask, and figure. I don't know what that question was. There was a lot to that little snorkel question.
Dude, I'll tell you what. If you haven't been diving, it was life-changing. It really was. It was just a whole nother level of reality. It's like, wow. And then go figure, I am like 25 years later, probably all up in the soil, because it reminds me of that. It takes me back to that. I call biochar a reef in the soil when I'm in the microscope. I see things all around this, poking it, easily relatable back and forth, and
instead of a nematode, it's an eel.
Eel, right?
It's very similar forms, very similar functions within those forms. It's mostly based out of coral structure or mineral aggregation, right? So that's calcium bicarbonate, right? What coral is made of. Just different scale, but it's very much the same.
That's wild to relate to, but yeah, I see it. It's like
look at the shell.
The ocean is like just the magnified version for us.
But see, this is also where we play with that scale when you're now mixing a compost extract, right? You put it into a vortex, and that automatically helps classify things of different density, just like a centrifuge does, right? Classifies things into that different density, allowing like things to come together. And if they're holding the right charge, that's going to aid in aggregation versus just dumping everything into a bucket. You see what I mean? It's like those little things that we do are making it just easier, more efficient, and helping do our part, and in the process, it speeds up time, right? Nature takes 10,000 years to grow an inch of soil, or you could do it in 18 months. You see what I mean? It's like this is where our own efforts, our own intentions are what speeds up that time. I call it a head start. It's because we're using this and we go, hey, I know that next year. And so is there something I can do now that benefits the system here so that as it cycles back around and goes through winter time, I'm better prepared for spring? You see what I mean? It's part of that knowing and working with seasons and cycles.
Wow.
Love it, man.
I don't know that word. I have to Google it.
Winogradsky, Oh boy.
Yeah.
Good luck. We'll talk about that one
I,
later.
I learned a lot when I was in Kazakhstan because it's the largest landlocked country in the world. So it doesn't have, like, as a fractal, it's multiple steps removed. It's the middle of nowhere on a country level.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said it's the biggest landlocked.
It's the 9th largest country in the world, and it's
Wow.
the largest one that has no access to the ocean.
Wow.
It's surrounded by Russia. It's got to go all the way through China. You see what I mean? To get to the water. Like, it's all the, like, it's bound up in all of it. Very old land disconnected from the ocean. It's very interesting. And a lot of their viral problems are because they're missing some mineral nutrition that the ocean offers.
Bro, how long were you there for?
I was there 10 days.
Damn, that was a lot of travel, dude. I know you messaged me when you got back. It felt like a month and a half later. You're like, all right, I'm back in detox.
Dude, jet lag was brutal.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I bet. Man.
Yeah,
You look like you had a blast, though.
Quite a few days after.
Wait, did you ever get your luggage back?
Yeah. So I flew over there with a microscope and stereoscope like I have here, and then we set up a lab at the dairy for the host. So they were about 5 days late. So they got there when they got there.
Yeah.
Grateful they got, but
yeah,
they didn't get there when they were supposed to.
Yeah.
What's
they got there at all.
Yeah.
Look at
what's
they
next
got
for you,
past.
Ryan?
I have a presentation online that I did for the group. Like there were supposed to be 35 people, 107 showed up, like from all over that part of the world.
Nice. Yeah.
And we were getting updates from the airport the 2 days before, the day before, that morning at 10. Everything kept shifting because I was supposed to do a live demonstration. And then they never came. And so there's a picture of me like slamming videos and pictures into my PowerPoint presentation because I was just going to do it live, and show everybody. But the microscope got stuck in Istanbul. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, got to roll with it. So, yeah.
Crazy.
What are you
I'm
doing?
glad you were able to make it work and it pulled through and everything was okay with it. And that they got there and got back safely too. That's crazy to travel with.
Yeah, glad they
Good
no
luggage.
issues with them. Just the fact that they were not where they were supposed to be. So,
Amazing.
That's cool.
Ryan,
but
man,
great people.
we appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate that you are available to community, and go check out Ryan, dude. His YouTube channel, his Instagram, his website. I mean, there's just so much going on there that
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'm available if people want to call and talk and we can schedule some time. I work with people at all scales, but I do tend to focus on the larger production scale. Oftentimes it's still just working with people, and you just try to optimize it for however many people they have for the operation. But like the guy in Kazakhstan, it was 11 people. With 11 people, he managed 10,000 acres and 7,000 cows. See what I mean?
Wow.
When it's done right, you just need 11 parts per billion. See what I mean?
Yeah.
You got it. That's how it makes it work.
That's awesome. Yeah, run around sounding like Rion Naus for the next week. Jeff's gonna be
Yeah.
tired.
I love it.
Like it. Those pieces help you remember. They stick. They really do. So I like
Well,
the
it's
way
a
you
part of
explain.
That's by design.
It's a part of education that's been lost, like truly understanding the meaning of words that we use all the time. And I really appreciate, and I just love that part about you, Ryan. And I know that was my first exposure to you was Our Soil, your speech there with Matt, or Our Future. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, amazing as always.
Yep. And so I do, so those are the 4 Ps, the programs. I teach a soil CPR course and a stewardship first responder program.
Wait, do you teach that online, bro? Or do you teach that in person on your site?
I do it in person. There are parts of it, little stuff online. I work with a lot of different companies. I produce different inputs at scale so that people can incorporate them into their biological programs, especially if they're wanting to work with the fungi. We've been able to track practices from soil to seed and seed to forage, and then that into animals. And so there's something called ergothymine, which is an amino acid that there's a few other things, but only fungi make it. We don't make it. Animals do not make it, right? So when we're talking like hues, those are colors, right? So now those fungi are giving us new colors in our crayon box for us to work with, right? And so ergothymine's all about mitochondrial health and ATP production. It's an anti-inflammatory. Like, it's so good for us, and we can't make it, right? So how beautiful is that? But a healthy ecosystem nourishes that system so we can utilize it, right? And so this is where it has to be a system that's going through seasons and cycles. Yep, 100%. Beautiful stuff. The isolate industry has known about it for years. We've known about it when it comes to soil. Like, there's tons of white paper and information. The key factor is how do we implement it, right? And so this is where working with the beneficial inoculums and these management practices, we can actually track it going back into the system, cycling through that system, and then even in the meat itself, right? So this is where inside the cow, they have fungal biomarkers.
Wow.
Like, this is because it's part of that healthy ecosystem. And so, yeah, there's a great company that I've helped their program for years. It's called Ripley Co-Farm, or Proven Proteins. We were part of the National Nutrient Density Study, right? Like, how do you know it's healthy? Well, let's test, right? And so it's amazing. And it has, like, anyways, like, this is like, if their food is medicine, you just might need to buy different food. And if you ever eat a meat stick, these are the best damn meat sticks on the market, and they're actually the absolute healthiest. And it is all real, and it's open and verifiable. Like, this is where it's not some secret. Yeah.
Is that what Matt had in his gift boxes? Those meat sticks? Oh man, yeah.
So and they're actually a probiotic, because we didn't use nitrates to preserve them, right? So nothing would want to eat them. We put them through fermentation. So, like, even in the part of the processing and packaging, no, it still has to be alive. You know, there are healthy ways to do it, not just shortcuts that negatively, cut us short, that most people do. And so I work with producers all over and help them both better their products and process. And grateful to work with such amazing people. So,
and you're doing that by building healthy soil. Like, that enzyme came from healthy soil. That enzyme came from fungus, right? That enzyme came from
the enzyme is from the living part, right? It's the biology, the life part, that then, because of that, binds these elements together. That's part of what we know as secondary metabolites. It has to go through one metabolism, right? That's why it's a secondary metabolite, right? And that just shortcuts all of that information and nutrition into our bodies. Or you can go chew on a rock. You see what I mean? Nope. We need all those other pieces to make calcium available. So, but that's why also people like get sick with like shrimp and crabs and stuff like that. We don't have the enzymes to eat chitin. Like, you see what I mean? Like, and it causes an allergic reaction to some people, right? But those fungi do. Happy to, right? And it's real trophic succession. Like, so succession. It's successful succession. You know that it's cycling through and to the next level, when even in the process, it doesn't even have to kill the arthropod, they molt. You see what I mean? It's not an aspect of death. It's an aspect of growth, right? Wow. And that's what's sending it to the next level, to have it cycle through the system. Yeah. And you can verify it with microscope. Like, it's super easy.
That's amazing. Not to mention the vet bills you're saving your animals are eating that healthy, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
just a whole nother.
The success for the operation in Kazakhstan is because it's run by a veterinarian. Animal husbandry is the key factor and filter for all
Yeah.
activities on the farm. He considers himself a lazy veterinarian. He knows that if his animals are dealing with metabolic diseases, he has to work really hard just to keep them alive.
Right.
His original task was they were losing 20 dairy cows a day when he first started there 15 years ago.
That
Yeah.
sounds crazy.
And it doesn't matter if we're talking plants or animals. If you lose 20 of them a day, somebody's
Yeah.
losing their job. You know, there's problems.
Yeah.
So at that point, to become a lazy veterinarian, he needed to address all of those issues about what the cows were eating by affecting how what they were eating was grown. And so now he works with the little labor force, animal husbandry, in the soil to produce healthy forage, which then gets turned into healthy silage, which then gets turned into healthy feedstock, which cycles all of that nutrition and all those positives back around into healthy animals. And for a veterinarian who has a bunch of healthy animals, he doesn't have much work to do. Right? And so, but because he's putting the work in all of these other areas. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just knowing what you're doing and understanding it, man. Just getting this all right, dude. This is like.
But it's about animal husbandry.
Yeah.
It's about caring for creatures, big people, little creatures. You know, all
Microscopic ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like the soil food web is really just a checkoff list. You know, when you see the picture, you gotta have bacteria, gotta have this, gotta have all these things.
Yeah.
Check. Oh, we're missing arthropods. Oh, we're missing microarthropods. Oh, we're missing nematodes. Oh, we haven't seen any testate amoebas. Well, cool. That just tells you what you're missing, so you know now what you need to reinforce and put back. You know. So.
Yeah, that's been like an audit on your compost. Should have a little check list, you know? Bang, got him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you see them, right, you know you have what they do.
Yeah.
The poop joke and the reality of the result of their presence. Right? They're being there. Whatever they do, that's all they can do. So, and
amazing, brother.
And beautifully, the word do, du, with a little line over the top of it, means get what you're owed. Every man gets his due. But the same sound also represents DEW, which is the moisture, the breath, right? The condensation condensing from a respiration in the soil. When we talk about sand, silt, clay, there's still nothing breathing. Structure allows for gas exchange, right? Even if nothing's there alive, if you have structure and you have tidal factors like the lunar component, even if you don't have the ocean near you, your aquifer is coming up and down, right? It's all water, all bodies of water being pulled, and like the tide is affecting. If you have structure, when it comes up, it's pushing all the air out, right? When you have structure and it goes down, you're sucking new air in.
It's breathing.
Right? It's pulling all that gas into that system.
It's alive.
It's respiring. Yeah. Right, it breathes, but it's two really big breaths. We call those high tides.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you don't have structure, it doesn't function.
That's
right.
crazy.
You're not getting gas exchange, and so a lot of these producers that are trying to work with biology, if it can't breathe, right? You see what I mean? Then they're not able to access the nitrogen that's in the air. By the way, that's another scuba factor, right? Because you realize it's way more than air. There's different gases in what we call air, and 78% of that is nitrogen. We just call that inert, right? Which means we can't utilize it. But if you look on the label of most biological products, or most products period within agriculture or growing stuff, it says 98% inert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are
Oh,
you
yeah.
paying for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2%.
Yeah.
I've
So
seen
this is where if
99%
you know
water.
that,
Yeah.
if
I've
you
seen
know that, then
99%
it's a
water.
lot easier. Right? But it also creates value for what someone can do in a test tube when
Yeah.
it's 100% and real, and then you can have a 1 to 1,000 dilution ratio and still be way better off than a lot
Yeah.
of the products that are out in the market. It's I
Absolutely.
say it kind of tongue in cheek, but it's super easy to shine in this industry when a lot of the stuff out there is overpriced, watered down, like
Yeah.
99% inert. And oh, by the way, even like that's why I use my microscope to verify. Like if it says there's millions and billions in every drop, and then I follow all the manufacturer's directions and I look at a drop and I don't see any,
Got a
right?
problem.
I'm not going to get on the internet and blast people type of deal, but I'm going to make better decisions based on what I'm able to observe,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and verify.
My
And
early
then,
stuff was putting people on blast, and I decided that wasn't helping anything. And when I say early, my first videos ever were like, "Why are you kidding me?" I spent money on this, and this is what I'm getting, and it was just a massive eye opener.
Yeah.
And this is why every now and then I'll get that message from people like, "Hey, Mo, picture of something." Thoughts, and I've been fortunate enough to test a lot of things because of Rick over at the garden, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it, and that's just it. So
There
that
are
was
things. Okay, so there's two systems at play at that point. One is your endemic. That's your of place, right? Everybody's place is special. It is unique geographically, environmentally, ecosystem. There may be stuff that is on your farm or property or your backyard, honest, that no one has ever seen ever because no one's ever looked. You see what
Yeah.
I mean? There might
Oh
be
yeah.
something that special to that space.
Yep.
So everyone should nurture their of space culture, right? Your endemic ecosystem, a worm bin, compost, Johnson, Sue's, biome bins, windrow, whatever it is, right? Everybody should at every scale. Like I don't even care if you have hundreds of thousands of acres, you still need to have the intention put into one culture, right? And maybe that's a worm bin. Cool. Awesome, right? That, though, is connected because the world is not flat. What goes around comes around, right? You see what I mean? You
Yeah.
reap what you sow, it comes back. And so when the storms kick in Mo's butt, in August and September because the hurricane season, the people up in Nebraska are going to be having some of that ecosystem dumped via the storms
Yeah.
all the way up there.
They're getting my IMOs.
So at that point, you have an introduction of the endemic with the systemic. Very important. I don't even know
That's
what to
cool,
do.
right?
Yeah.
The software.
When the systemic is connected, that's where a lot of epigenetic transfer takes place. Because even though some of that biology can handle all summer long because it's used to the Florida heat and it's no big deal, holy crap, it's wintertime and it doesn't like it up there. And so now it, in the process of just trying to figure out if this is functional, say it dies. But in the process, it's sharing genetic information with the other biology that are part of that ecosystem. It's an update. It's a seasonal update for the hardware and software of the microbiome.
For the survivors that
Yeah.
that are going to be more adept to this climate.
Right. And so this is where when you are developing your cultures, when you're building your habitats and your ecosystems, it's the bridging and bonding of that endemic with systemic. And so a lot of products on the market are systemic. You can use them just about everywhere. This beneficial here. It's been, even more so are so much of an isolate. Yeah, everything benefits from it because it's just one teeny thing, but it's that one thing of part of millions of things. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can't tell you how many bacillus products are out there on the market. We all need it. Like,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for lactobacillus, we would not exist as mammals. Like, that's the reason why we can convert milk sugars into our own metabolism. Nobody be
Yeah.
able to nurse, right? And so super beneficial, but you could also make it. You see what I mean? You
Yeah.
can also buy some kefir and get more cultures that are already verified and then grow those out too. You know, you
Right.
can also, like, there's so many other things versus getting trapped into a consumer market of, oh, I'll just buy that. And so
Yeah,
purchases are done for convenience, right? Somebody else took the time to do that. Sometimes it's for diversity, right?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
collections from all over. It's wonderful. Like, that's how you build diversity. Share material with your community, with your friends, you know. Like, it really is for people in the community, a pound of someone's compost. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Which has truly been loved, nurtured, and remediated, so it's now regenerative. At that point, man, that's such a gift, right? It may
Oh
have
yeah,
taken
I'm collecting.
years.
I'm collecting microbes. I have Emily's. I have dirt rights. Every sample I get that comes in, herb. I mean, everyone who sent me something, that gets taken care of and added to what I do. I'll even extract labs out of those, and then add them to my labs. And this is
Yeah,
just
If we're to
something
get on the topic of labs, I have a question actually about that because I
sure.
turned the stuff that I had made last week into the into the bennies, and
Benny's
I'm just
beneficial
wondering.
microbes. Good.
Yeah,
So
what
you
am I?
added the molasses to it.
So I did
her
two
first
eggs.
set of labs. She's done her first set of labs that she learned right here on this channel, and she did a great job of sharing it on Instagram. So she did the milk separation, all that. So then all the which that video did very well, by the way. Everybody was like, "All right, now you gotta follow through and add molasses to this thing and extend it and activate it." And
Okay, so I've got 2 jars now. I have 3 jars in my pantry now because today I just started another thing for labs because I made rice for dinner. So I was like, all right. So I have 3 in my pantry. But 2 of them. So I took one, and I did equal parts of labs and equal parts of molasses, and then in the other one, I did equal parts of labs and equal parts of brown sugar. And then
Yeah.
I didn't mix anything else into them yet. I just keep shaking them and then put them back in the pantry.
you put water in there.
Oh no.
And then so the molasses one you're gonna end up putting to sleep, and the sugar one you're probably gonna put to sleep, maybe. But you need to put 18 parts water.
Oh, I thought I mixed
And-
that when I water with it. That's what I was going to ask you. How do I water
No.
with it?
when you put the 18 parts water, they're gonna get excited because of all that new food and sugar in there, and they're gonna start eating it and reproducing, and you're gonna take your culture from 1,000,000 of microbes to 1,000,000,000 microbes. I'm just throwing.
So I've got like a jar this size, totally full
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
both of those. The one mixed with brown sugar, and then another one of this amount mixed with molasses.
Molasses.
Oh,
Okay.
is there a difference between like the unsulfured or blackstrap or whatever? Is there a difference with that?
Yes.
There
Yeah.
is.
Well, yes. Yeah. Sulfur's
I got
gonna hurt your
unsulfured.
microbes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you want. Sulfur's gonna
Okay.
hurt your microbes.
Okay. Oh,
So,
Rusty
yeah.
said no water if you are just storing it. So I guess technically
Right.
I've just been storing it.
You're putting them to sleep, right? You're just gonna overwhelm them with sugar.
Okay,
Right.
so I want to
osmotic
activate
pressure-
all of that sugar right now before I use it, or I only want to activate it with the amount I want to use.
Go ahead,
Let's
Ryan.
go
was about
back.
to drop that.
All right.
Yeah.
So first you made a serum, and
Right.
now the step is what to do next with the serum. If you are going to use brown sugar through osmotic pressure, that's why the FPJs work, with the fermented plant juices and other things, right? It's actually pulling all the moisture out of what's in there and then binding it to the sugar crystals, right?
Okay.
So that's putting it into stasis. Because
Including your microbes.
Yes, because the molasses already has a higher moisture content, it's not able to do that as effectively. So it's going to do that to some, but not others. And molasses has a tremendous amount of minerals to it. right? So there's a mineral, and a lot of them have biology in them already too, right?
Right.
So if you just take molasses and dilute it, it's
Yeah.
worth. So at that point, it now is like, what are you wanting to do with this lab serum or solution? Like, and then that's your choice. I know people that do it 275 gallons at a time and make giant, you know, serums just like that, and they put it right through pivots and across the bacilluses themselves are the first biology that restructures back to structure restructures mineral profile to become aerobic, right? And so that's why they're facultative anaerobes. They can handle being in an apoxic or without oxygen environment, but because of their presence, their function, they actually make it more and more healthy aerobic because of that. A good example of that is thinking about sourdough bread. Very similar biology. You see what I mean? It's those sours, the sourdough, sauerkraut, all those sours is part of that fermentation. Because the flour is elastic, when the biology off gases, it traps that bubble in the flour as
We feel
As
your
a
love and
loft.
passion for it. It's coming through the
That's right.
screen.
That's what's
What
happening.
the heck? How do you do
That's
that?
called
I
a
think he's
loft
got a
layer,
Mac.
right?
It's called what?
That's
Can you
your
repeat that?
loft layer. That's your bread,
The loft layer. Okay.
right? And so
Yeah.
all those pockets in the bread is gas that couldn't be exchanged. Couldn't, because it got trapped. And then you cooked it and killed it, and so that's why it just trapped it. But in the soil, that same biology makes a bubble. That bubble can only do what a bubble does. It goes up. It's looking for the path of least resistance to decrease pressure. At which point, as that bubble is pushing through different pieces of sand, silt, clay, it's squishing off to the side, making small aggregates. So as it's coming up through the soil, it's creating or originating structure for gas exchange. So bacilluses are tremendously important for any disturbed soils, any weedy areas. Those are the labor force. And when you look through a microscope, they wiggle through. You see what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
And when you look at scale, you go, man, that looks very similar to what a nematode does, and that looks very similar to what a worm does, and that looks very similar to what a snake is doing. They're all different creatures, but they all kind of fit that function within the profile. And so it just
you said something on a video, I don't even know anymore. I've watched so many of them that just was like, oh, dude. And you were talking about spirilla, which is the pathogen and the way it spins. Yo,
the
check this out,
actual
Jeff.
physical structure of it is like a screw versus a nail. And that's why it augers. So it bypasses our defenses and fucking screws us. And that's why
I love that.
And things like syphilis and Lyme disease are these spirochetes, right? And that doesn't mean that all of them are bad, but that structure allows them to bypass our defenses.
I'm going to show that to you, Emily. These are the ones that spin, and they're the bad guys,
and
right?
Different than wobble, right? Very important.
Wait, the vorticella?
No. We haven't seen these yet.
Okay.
Bacteria.
And if you do, it's good to know what they look like. It's okay to have one or two, like we were talking about before.
Sure.
But if you're looking at samples from whatever it is, and it is just looking to screw you, I would be very careful with it.
Screw you.
Don't sniff that one.
It's like,
but it's a function.
is.
We're looking. It's so small. We're looking at where form is function. For these forms to preform their function. You see what I mean? They're designed. This is all they do. This is like, man, I'm just going through the world like this, and because of that, these other things are happening. You see what I mean?
Because of that, I'm gonna bounce off of this defense wall. Yep. But that spiral is coming in hot, boy, and it's gonna just bore through it because it's designed to penetrate and be pathogenic, and I'm gonna go ruin your life, right?
Yep.
That's a heavy,
But
man.
you know
That's
what? If it's got a really great riser sheath and there's all these biofilms and the minerals
Yep.
are in balance and charge is repelling stuff like that, bounces right off. Like
Yep.
it doesn't succumm to that.
I
Yeah.
mean, it even looks like it's
These
gonna
look
screw you.
crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
they're literally gonna
It's
screw
a
you.
simple structure that is part of that.
So you don't
Yeah,
want
that's a start.
anything that looks like this. If I look in my soil and I see a little fucking squiggly
If you
thing,
have a couple, that's fine.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you,
You don't want a
see
million
a
of
whole
them.
bunch, you should wonder why.
oh my gosh,
Um,
this is crazy.
Yeah, but
Yep.
this is also where this is it makes sense. Like these are how these systems, like a virus isn't something like to be scary. It's how does that information translate into the rest of the system, right? You know, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Bloop. You know, it fits in. We have immune response. It's buffered, minerals, all these things. Like in that virus is incredibly important, right? But it's when that information then goes into the system, there's deficiency and deficiency and deficiency. That's when that virus goes into its own quorum sensing, right? Because just like with the plants in a field, like if there's no zinc, well, then it doesn't have anybody stopping its progress. Oh, there's none of this either. Okay, cool. Let's go over here. And then by cycling through that system, you're sick, And we can feel it. Like these are the same things that are taking place in the soil, but we can feel it. Like, a couple days before I got sick, I was feeling like this. Yeah, your energy level was low. Maybe you're shifting from, processing sugars versus ketones and like a ketosis diet. Like there's things that are changing, in your system. So
Wow.
yeah.
It's deep, man. It is. It's like no matter how many
One of the
times
coolest
I've
things that
seen
I
those
saw,
things.
because who knows will watch this, but one of the coolest things I saw or looked at when I was in Kazakhstan was moose droppings. And so if you think about trophic succession, right?
Yeah.
The moose is the largest cold composter that we have in our whole hemisphere, right? And with it, and it's also almost a marine mammal, to be honest. They do a lot of grazing and stuff below the surface. And so it crosses over between an aquatic and a terrestrial environment with what's going on inside of its gut.
What do you mean below the surface? Like in like river areas?
Oh, dude, they're in a pond, their head's underwater, they're grazing and
Oh,
stuff.
no
and come
kidding.
up, right?
Wow, so they're eating algae and all that good stuff.
All of
Yeah.
it, right?
I was
So this is
stationed in
also
Alaska.
wow.
I was
between
stationed in
those
Alaska
ecosystems.
twice and got to interact with some moose. And
Yeah.
the Alaska people use the moose droppings for everything because they're super dry and
It's organic material. There's a little firewood. There's the lightest stuff material, like super high in fungi. And one of the things that the fungi I anticipated, right, based on that animal's digestion and what it does and how it peruses through the ecosystem, the forested area. Tons of testate amoeba.
Really?
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Well,
So
it's
normally
composted already. So it's got nutrient
Inside.
in it. It's composted inside.
Yeah, it's inside. So that ecosystem, that temperature range, their body's metabolism, those fermentation tanks of having multiple stomachs, like it's a biological refinery, and
Wait,
and so
it's anaerobic in the stomach though, so right? So
they have 4
when it's
stomachs. So this is
the
where
moose
different.
does?
They're a ruminant.
Yeah,
Oh
they're a
wow,
ruminant.
they're the ruminant too. I know nothing about the moose. So you think they're poop? So you're saying they're not saying, but do you believe that they're pooping out testate amoeba?
I looked at their poop and it was a lot of testate amoeba in it. I would say
wild,
yes.
dude. That's crazy. I'm thinking,
right? But it makes
dude,
perfect
that's
sense
nuts.
too.
It's like,
Yeah.
that is
So
cool.
that ecosystem.
Damn. I need a moose.
That's the top trophic succession, right?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That ecosystem was not based on dairy cows. So what is the largest mammal that is giving back to it? And it's huge, giant, way bigger than a cow. Yeah. And at the same time, these are creatures that are able to eat all of these grasses, herbs, fungi, and things, and they produce, 50 pounds of calcium that drops off their head every year.
Right.
Like, this is how
That's so
biology
crazy.
cycles nutrition. And then all those little creatures chew on those antlers and spread out that calcium back across the surface, and then it continues to go back down through gravity through the soil profile.
Dude, that is
And
amazing.
on my wall, you can see it's like right over here. Let's see, right over here.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
antler tine was out of a tractor tire. And so
Nice.
farmers, instead of seeing these things as positives, because we're dependent upon this other toolbox, now that antler on the ground became a really bad day and 1,000. You see what I mean? And to fix one of these giant tires. So this is where working with nature, you have to understand it, but then you also have to work with our own toolbox to optimize it.
Yeah, in Alaska, people would take the helicopters and go fly around looking for dropped antlers. Well, one year somebody grabbed a helicopter and they overgross weighted it with horns because they found so many, and then they were like, "Okay, no more of that. You guys are not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Stop using the helicopters to find moose antlers."
I've got a ton of antlers. I'm out and about and I find things, and oftentimes I'll see stuff on a property that generations of family member have never seen, but they're not running around at 2:00 in the morning chasing porcupines or something. But a porcupine's a land beaver. You know what I mean? It's like how they're cold composters. They're working through the system. It's like, but if nobody's ever out there to interact in that ecosystem, they just wonder what they have to spray on it. What chemical recipe they have to work with. So.
It's crazy.
That's so crazy, man. There was like, I've learned so much from Ryan, brother. It was like,
I know.
when I go outside in my yard and my compost area, I now think of my shoes as picking up inoculations. Like, I have I literally, after hearing you say that, I went and I'm that dude, bro. I'll go dip the back end of my shoe into water and then pull up microbes, and it's that easy when you have that microscope and it gets come to that realization that, man, it's that easy. Look, somebody said earlier, I'm going to go back a little bit, going back to the molasses thing. Molasses and water will become a lactic acid bottle of Benny's. They live in molasses, and if you dilute that enough, they're going to start eating. It's going to start swelling. It's going to start gassing off, and there you go. Now, I'm not saying you have that whole culture, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere, even in your shoes as you're walking around your grass.
I think like with KNF practices, with the rice wash, it's great practice. It's just collecting stuff right out of the air. Yep, it's all part of the system. People collect sourdough culture same way, These are ways for us to harvest endemic of place, but also biology that's ubiquitous, right?
Yeah.
Which means it's everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
Well, where do I get it? Well, right here, but you just don't see it because it's in the air. You see what I mean? And that's why you then have to have a light starchy material to give it a head start in growth, and that's what we then make the serum out of for lactic acid bacteria extract or culture. But it really is everywhere. What most people don't have is the time to develop these cultures, to whether it be 18 days for compost or 3 days for lab, whatever it might be. Like, they do have the time, but they just don't utilize it. So. But I use molasses. This is where I also use organic potato starch. I also use coconut milk, different amino acid profile, but still works with the bacillus. I use lots of different milks, goat milk, cow milk, horse milk. In Kazakhstan, they have dairies where they don't milk cows; they milk horses.
That's crazy.
Different culture. Super
culture,
cool.
Yeah.
Lots of cultures still eat horses.
And when I had horse milk, it tasted like coconut water. It's
That's
a different
great.
amino acid than cow milk. Like, it's not a ruminant. It's a different creature, like trophic succession. Right? The horse is in a cow. right? But it's still a mammal, and so that milk is totally different. It's super good. Like if you ever have a chance, they call it mare's milk. If you ever have a
Mare's
chance, it's
milk?
really good. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna take your word on that one. I know some people have told me that eating your own worm castings is fine for you, or you know, you can.
Oh, I still
drink
test.
it.
So
Yeah,
that's why
I
I
don't
use
do any of
microscope
that.
too to
I'll just
verify.
consume things.
So,
Verify,
Yeah.
That
verify.
sounds.
You always
Yeah,
can.
that's. I will say though, I am going to be signing off though because I would like to consume this food that's been sitting on my desk for like 30 minutes. I love hanging out, but your girl needs to eat.
Do
So
your
I didn't know
thing.
if you guys wanted to stay hanging out longer, if we wanted to just, find another time to have Ryan come back on.
Yeah, for
yeah, you
sure.
guys are great. Be happy to hang out more in the
Yeah.
future.
I
Awesome.
appreciate it. I really appreciate what I've been able to learn from you and kind of pick your brain at. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's a lot.
You're welcome.
I'll watch this like 3 times and 4 times before I'm like, all right, cool. I want to lock this information in. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be walking around. Well, I think we're all gonna be walking around sounding like Ryan for the next fucking 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I do appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Yeah.
You're welcome. So enjoy the
back,
meal.
bro.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, well, I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm just gonna say, make like an aggregate out there and stay sticky. So,
Yay.
good night, y'all.
That's a great one.
That is like,
Mo, you want to end the recording? Or you want to?
yeah. I'll go ahead and yeah. Thank everyone for being here. First of all, that's awesome. And damn, so much information in here, dude.
Mhm.
We'll definitely run it again. I'll ask Ryan just to stick around, but so we can let this stream thing do its thing in the background.
Yeah.
So, but as far as everyone else,
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
grow it up. Reach out. Any questions? Ryan, hold on a second. Let's go one more time. Again, Instagram active, YouTube active, website active. You can get many ways to get a hold of Rion Naus to find out what he's doing. He's out in the West Coast. For all my West Coast people, and yeah, appreciate everybody being here. We're out of here.
Night, everyone.